This is the biggest scandal in U.S. history. I think it's fair to say. Now, obviously, that's my opinion, but usually when you ask people that, they say things like Watergate. We've gone well beyond that. We've had the president be accused of being a Russian spy, but now we have this. The entirety of the corporate news establishment, the White House administration, the entirety of a political wing, one of the largest political parties in this country, all lying about the medical condition of a sitting president at the time, Joe Biden. They likely lied about him having cancer before he got in. They lied about him having it while he was in. And the story they're putting out now is a lie. So let me just stress. You may have an administration that does something wrong. You may have an administration in the past that lied. Here we have not just a single administration, but the entirety of a political apparatus and the media and big tech all working to cover up what was plain for the average person to see. Why? Well, unfortunately for us, there are a lot of people in this country that don't pay attention to news and don't watch the source material. So those that were paying attention, it was painfully obvious. Joe Biden was sick in some way. In fact, there was a video from 2022 where Joe Biden says explicitly that he has cancer. And the media came out and said, no. He was referring to non-melanoma skin lesions. Right. The story he told about environmental toxins was about his skin lesions. That was a lie, and we all know it. And they're still trying to push this lie. Donald Trump has come out asking about who knew about this and when did they know about it. Because Biden has what's called a Gleason score of 9, which is considered an extremely aggressive form of cancer. It is metastasized to his bones. This is not something that just happens over the course of 100 or so days. This is not something that they just found accidentally or in a routine search just now. A president undergoing routine physicals, they would have found this a long time ago. And don't take my word for it. Tons of doctors have popped up, dozens, famous, well-known medical doctors expressing their disbelief over the story that has been put forward. We'll talk about that, but we also have the Biden-Hur tapes, which came out last week, compounding the issue. Who signed these documents? Did they use AutoPen? Because Biden was incapable of actually signing these documents. And just how bad was it? And there's a question about whether or not some of the actions of Joe Biden may be voided. We'll talk about that. Plus, we got a bunch of other news stories, of course. Kash Patel and Dan Bongino they're getting a lot of flack for saying that Epstein took his own life. That's what they claimed. And we'll talk about that as well as an update to the James Comey story and many others. We got video and stories. The story about that Mexican vessel that crashed into the Brooklyn Bridge. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a wild news day. Before we get started, though, we've got some great sponsors for you, my friends. Let's give a shout out to PDS Debt. Go to pdsdebt.com/Tim. Folks, the American dream is under attack, and hardworking patriots like you are being crushed under mountains of debt. Why? Because creditors love debt. They want you to be stuck in their high interest trap. They want you drowning in student loans, credit card debt, skyrocketing mortgage rates. Because when you're broke, you're controllable. So what do? You take control. Fight back, and that starts with PDS Debt. They've helped tens of thousands of people live debt-free. They go beyond the numbers to understand your unique financial situation and craft a personalized plan designed for you. There's no minimum credit score required. They're here to help you save more, pay off your debt faster, and start putting money back where it belongs in your pocket. PDS Debt is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, boasts hundreds of 5-star reviews on Google, and holds a 5-star rating on Trustpilot. Why? Because PDS has helped tens of thousands of people get out of debt. Stop living in debt. Get your free assessment and find the best option for you right now at pds.com/Tim. You're just 30 seconds away from starting to get out of debt. pds.com/Tim. That's pdsdebt.com/Tim. And we also have Tax Network USA. My friends, check out tnusa.com/Tim. Tax day may have passed, but for millions of Americans, the real trouble is just beginning. If you missed the April 15th deadline or still owe back taxes, the IRS is ramping up enforcement. Every day you wait only makes things worse. With over 5,000 new tax liens filed daily and tools like property seizures, bank levies, and wage garnishments, the IRS is applying pressure at levels we haven't seen in years. Increased administrative scrutiny means collections are moving fast. The good news? There's still time for Tax Network USA to help. Self-employed or business owner, even if your books are a mess, they've got it covered. Tax Network USA specializes in cleaning up financial chaos and getting you back on track fast. Even after the deadline, it's not too late to regain control. Your consultation is completely free, and acting now could stop penalties, threatening letters, and surprise levies before they escalate. Call 1-800-958-1000 or visit tnusa.com TimCast.com/Tim. You may have missed April 15th, but you haven't run out of options. Let Tax Network USA help before the IRS makes the next move. Shout out to our sponsors who make all of this possible, of course. But don't forget to also smash the like button. Share the show with everyone you know. Joining us tonight to talk about this and everything else is David Harris Jr.
My man. Honored to be here, Tim.
Likewise, honored to have you. Who are you? What do you do?
I've been shredding the narrative against liberal lies since Trump came down the escalator. Right after the third debate between Trump and Hillary, I hopped on Facebook. I didn't have a platform at all. I had maybe 1,000 or so friends, and I just poured my heart out, man, as to what I felt was at stake during that election between Trump and Hillary. And I shared as a Christian, as a husband, married 31 years now, my high school sweetheart, but as a Christian, as a husband, as a father, 2 daughters and now 2 grandbabies.
Oh.
As a business owner, I started my first company when I was 20. And then as a member of the black community, and it's in that order for me, I shared why I felt that we needed to support Trump and not Hillary. It was a long video. It was like 14 minutes, and the thing went viral. It went to over like 400,000 views with literally no platform. And I had a lot of messages from people that just said that, you know, they were Democrats, their whole family were Democrats, and they were going to vote for Hillary until they watched my video. And then they said they were going to vote for Trump. Wow. So I just kept making videos, brother. Kept making videos, kept trying to wake people up.
Now you got your own show?
Newsmax. Yeah, I got a Newsmax show. I actually have a fill-in right now because 8 p.m. Monday through Friday is my slot. So I took the day off. So I could be
we
here.
Got you.
Yep.
Oh, I appreciate it. Wow.
Yep, via the app, Newsmax app on your TV, phone, whatever, 8 p.m. Monday through Friday for an hour. And then they play the best of my show segments on Newsmax Cable on Saturday and Sunday nights.
Right on, man. Thanks for hanging out.
Absolutely.
It's going to be a blast. We got Shane hanging out.
What's up? I am Shane Cashman, host of Inverted World Live. Last night, I detailed how the Silicon Valley vampires are building a surveillance state, and it's coming for you, Phil.
Specifically me?
It's just for you.
They said my name?
It's just you.
I'm so honored. Yeah. Hello, everybody. My name is Phil Labonte. I'm the lead singer of the heavy metal band All That Remains. I'm an anti-communist and a counter-revolutionary. Let's get into it.
Here's a story we got from the New York Post. Doctor who worked with Biden says he had cancer while he was president. He did not develop it in the last 100 to 200 days. In fact, he went on, quote, he had it while he was president. He probably had it at the start of his presidency in 2021. Yes, I don't think there's any disagreement about that. Now, Donald Trump has issued a statement, and he came out questioning the Gleason score of 9, which is aggressive. I talked to Dr. Drew today, and Dr. Drew and a bunch of other prominent medical doctors have been coming out making statements about this, and he made it clear. This is a guy who has prostate cancer himself, Dr. Drew, and who treats it and diagnoses it. And he said, there's no chance that they were doing a routine exam and found that he had stage 4 terminal prostate cancer metastasized to the bone.
Yeah.
That's insane. Let's pull up this clip from Trump real quick and hear what he had to say.
Everybody, but it's given just about, and it takes a long time to get to that situation. Now, I think, to get to a stage 9, I think that if you take a look, it's the same doctor that said that Joe was cognitively fine. There was nothing wrong with him. Well, he said, if it's the same doctor, he said there was nothing wrong there, and that's being proven to be a sad situation. And the auto pen is becoming a very big deal. The auto pen is becoming a big deal because it seems like that maybe was the president who ever operated the auto pen. But when they say that that was not good, they also, you have to look and you have to say that the test was not so good either. In other words, there are things going on that the public wasn't informed, and I think somebody's going to have to speak to his doctor, if it's the same, or even if it's 2 separate doctors. Why wasn't the cognitive ability, why wasn't that discussed? And I think the doctor said he's just fine, and it's turned out to everybody. But
I think we need committees. We need the Biden Infirmity Committee to start issuing subpoenas to all the people in the administration and even some journalists. I'm not saying criminal charges for journalists. Calm down, liberals. I'm saying journalists should be subpoenaed to answer questions about what they knew behind the scenes and what they were choosing to report. Because people like Jake Tapper, who come out now with this book, oh, yeah, he was impaired, but the whole time during the administration, he kept defending Joe Biden. Mm-hmm. I'd like to know who their sources were and what they actually knew. Because as Trump points out, as everybody else is pointing out, this is not something Biden just got recently. He's had this for years. Mm-hmm. So dare I say, when big tech, the corporate press, and the entire political party and the White House, everybody was covering this up, it's the biggest scandal in U.S. history.
100%.
When Dan Bongino had his show going, he would say regularly, and he would tweet this out regularly, It's whatever the date is, and Joe Biden is the worst president in American history. And we're now it's May. We're not even 6 months since Joe Biden left office, and it's become abundantly clear that not only was Dan Bongino right, Joe Biden had likely the most corrupt and dishonest presidency in American history, whether it be hiding his own ability to do the job because he was clearly incapacitated because of, whether it be sundowners or dementia or whatever, some cognitive impairment. The diagnosis that has been announced today, everybody that was close to him had to have known about it. It wasn't hidden. You get these diagnoses and it's not, oh, hey, it just happened now. The way that his family was behaving while he was parading. Well, not only parading him around, but the corruption. His brother, the way that he was protecting his son, the likely payola that his son was involved in, going to picking up bags of cash from Ukraine, bags of cash from China. The Joe Biden administration, and that's just the Biden administration. Never mind the surrounding apparatus. Never mind the administration. Never mind the media that was actually involved in the cover-up. It wasn't just like, oh, we missed it, like Jake Tapper tries to pass off. They were actively involved in covering this up.
This was Woodrow Wilson administration on steroids.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he was incapacitated for a while. His wife took over, and but Biden's whole time was like that, And like FDR, they covered up his legs for a long time, and they would chase down journalists if they were going to write something about his faulty legs.
And that is crazy too.
Yeah.
But those are legs.
Yeah.
This was
Joe Biden's brain worked as well as FDR's legs.
But brain substantially, if they had told the American people that his legs didn't work, but don't worry, he's of sound mind.
Right.
Oh, they would have kept running him.
Yeah, I think they'd lose too much in the polls to win, but we wouldn't be having a conversation like this if it was like Biden's legs didn't work.
Right.
We'd be like, oh, that's really, really sad. But he's giving orders. Is he of sound mind? No. The fact of the matter is, Biden's legs do work. Not particularly well, but they do, and we don't care if they do.
Yeah.
We care that his brain didn't work,
right.
And they were covering up that he's got terminal diagnosis. Yeah. Now, I want to add this to the story, and the first thing I want to say is, I don't know what the right word is for this, but I'm sorry to hear about Scott Adams and his diagnosis for prostate cancer as well. He mentioned that he has metastasis to the bone as well, and he's given himself months to live. And so, I'm sorry to hear. I don't like hearing anybody is sick or dying, and even if it is Joe Biden, right?
Yeah.
So, but Scott's insight on this, it's really fascinating. I don't know. I wanted to make sure we got in that mention of Scott Adams going through this as well. Is a big story, and it is sad because we're dealing with cancer's a scary thing. But the Biden administration actively covering up. I don't know. I don't want to, I guess, conflate the failures of Biden with me giving my condolences to Scott Adams. So I'll just pause there.
Scott distilled reality into the greatest quote with the 2 movies, 1 screen. And that is like Biden, because there's half the country seeing a viable, living human.
Thank you. You saved me. I was trying to draw that contrast of a man of sound mind who was undergoing this. And then I kind of felt I don't want to conflate the two things necessarily. I want to, but that's the point.
Yeah.
Well, there's another individual who's been in the space, who's been an advocate, and who's called out the lies, and he's dealing with as well. But you can see that the diagnosis isn't the issue; it's the ability of mind and whether or not the person is capable of doing the job. And Scott Adams seems to have had no problem distilling truth, facts, and calling out lies while dealing with this condition for a long time.
Well, and I'm curious too, if Biden has had this for so long, for years, it sounds like he's been dealing with this. Did they just not go put him into treatment because they were trying to continue to put him in front of the American people long enough to try to either get him across the finish line?
Why do you think
3 months prior, they're like, okay, you're not going to make it. We got to put Kamala in, but we still need you healthy at least to try to help Kamala. None of it worked.
Dude, why do you think he campaigned from a basement? He campaigned I think he knew for a long time.
I'm sure he knew.
And they were probably giving him
they weren't
treatment.
giving him treatment for it.
I think they were, and they were weaning him off.
Well, no. I think you're right. I talked to Dr. Drew about this,
really?
And I'll tell you what he said. But first, I want to play this clip for you.
And because it was a 4-lane highway that was accessible, my mother drove us, and rather than us be able to walk. And guess what? The first frost, you know what was happening? You had to put on your windshield wipers to get literally the oil slick off the window. That's why I and so damn many other people I grew up have cancer. And why can't, for the longest time, Delaware had the highest cancer rate in the nation.
That wasn't a slip of the tongue.
No.
Windshield wipers to get literally the oil slick off the window. That's why I and so damn many other people I grew up have cancer.
Now, they claimed at the time, you skin lesions. That's what he was talking. Nobody, the first thing I thought was talking about oil slicks on the windshield. Nobody who gets skin lesions goes, oh, it's the oil slicks on the windshield. So I talked with Dr. Drew earlier today. You just made a point about denying him the treatment. Mm-hmm. And what Dr. Drew brought up is the possibility that they intentionally withheld treatment because the treatment for prostate cancer is, I forgot the terminology, but it is effectively stopping androgens. He said in the past, they'd literally just castrate men to slow the progress of the cancer. Now they do things like Lupron, which will inhibit androgens and slow the progress. However, it will impair you cognitively. And so it may be that they knew he had cancer, and there are concerns about if we give him this treatment and he's already showing signs of Parkinsonism, you'll make it substantially worse.
Yep. And wasn't that video around the same time of the Ben-Hur interview?
I think this is 2022. I don't think Ben-Hur was it 23?
Is this from when the ship hit the bridge?
I don't think so.
Oh, I thought it was.
Well, no, that was 22. I know,
Okay.
but so all I'm saying is because the Hur, he was talking and rambling then as well. Couldn't remember when his son, died, and he's kind of rambling now. It's the same kind of ramble that's taking place, and he's just, kind of willingly, oh yeah, and I've got cancer, throwing it out there. I remember posting that on Facebook, and I'm pretty sure I got hit with a fake news strike, like, oh no, he didn't say he had cancer. It's not what he meant. It's like, it's what he said.
What's funny is that he lies so much about his life and the things that he's done.
Yeah.
That some actually could have entertained the fact that he was saying I have cancer as a lie for sympathy. So many people affected by the pollution.
But now we know he had it.
Oh yeah.
So he wasn't lying. He was spilling the beans on accident.
I think he's got every disease, every single one of them.
He sounds like it.
Yeah, it's like Mr. Burns.
Yeah.
When he has the oversized novelty germs.
Yep.
Because Dr. Drew says he has Parkinsonism, which is the hands are shaking, the face is masked, droopy, and what did he call it? I forgot what he described a bunch of things. He's a doctor. I'm not a doctor. He's got all these medical terms, but he knows more about this than I do. But he basically laid it all out that we don't know why he was suffering these symptoms. Maybe it was Parkinson's. Maybe it was age related. His doctor certainly knows. So we need those answers.
Exactly.
And then you combine that with the fact that the dude clearly has cancer. I wonder if, what he also mentioned was really fascinating. One of the side effects of treatment for prostate cancer is falling, muscle atrophy, diminished cognition.
Maybe he was getting treated. And that's
right.
Part of the other reason why his mind was so gone. He couldn't walk upstairs. Couldn't ride a bicycle.
Right?
Couldn't stop on a bicycle.
Anti-androgens is what he was.
Yes.
Yeah, anti-androgens.
So I had another thought. You guys remember back in the end of the Trump term, the first term, Nancy Pelosi put together that committee, the 25th Amendment committee through Congress?
Yeah.
And at first, everybody said she's trying to create a way to get rid of Trump. And then there was kind of like 30 minutes of that. Then everyone went, nah, she's talking about Joe Biden.
Yeah.
This was before he got elected.
Yeah, it was.
And
She knew.
that's
I
right.
bet they all knew. But they didn't have a better candidate at that point.
Exactly. You know what I think? I think they knew that he was terminal. I think they had a meeting and said, what if we lose Congress? Would Kamala Harris actually invoke the 25th and get rid of this guy? Would we actually be able to get it through Congress? Nope. Republicans are going to be like, nah, we're not getting you out of this one. You're gonna rock this bad presidency. So she took action while they still had a majority and wanted to make sure she could to create this 25th Amendment committee so that they had an independent board that could remove Joe Biden when they felt necessary. But it also is about what information they want to give out.
Yeah.
I think the play was Joe Biden gets in, he dies, Kamala Harris becomes president.
Dies or has to step down because he's got cancer, either one. But I think that was 100%. I think that was the play as well. That was their goal. That was their end game. And again, the auto pin proves that he was a puppet the whole time.
Yeah.
That's where it's scary.
Somebody else was running the country, not Joe, not even Kamala at that point. I think during any point, I think that's what we really need to find out is who was the one behind Joe that was actually making the decisions for our country.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't Joe.
Yeah. And
That was our goal. Get Joe across the finish line. And then when they saw that wasn't going to work, let's throw Kamala in at the last minute. give her all the money in the war chest.
Maybe-
She got as VP on the ticket, which again, all that should
Maybe
be
they really
looked
thought
at.
that women of color, regardless of personality, could win.
They did that with Obama though.
Yeah.
So many. Like I got blasted by like I'm half black, right? My dad's side is black, my mom's side is white. And so my mom always said I got the best of both worlds. and I believe I do. But my dad's side of my family, so many of them voted for Barack because he was black,
Yep.
as did so many of the black community. Yeah. I did not because of the issue of abortion. I said, I don't care what color he is. He voted against a bill that would provide medical treatment to babies that survived abortion, and he voted in favor of partial birth abortion. I don't care what color this guy is. He's not getting my vote.
I don't
know.
But the black vote did overwhelmingly go to Obama, and I think the white sympathizers, like, oh, a black president would be great, and he sounds great and everything else. I don't think it worked. It didn't work with Kamala. It didn't have the same effect.
I had a friend in Chicago, and this is back during when Obama was running, and he was black. We were skating, we were hanging out, and his grandmother, she was like, "Are you going to vote for Obama?" And he's like, "I don't know." She was like, "You have to. He could be the first black president." And he goes, "Does that mean he's going to be a good president?"
Exactly.
And I was like, "Damn!" I was like,
Exactly.
We didn't say based back then, but he hit the nail on the head with a hammer.
I wrote that in my book. I'm working on my.
I still voted for Obama though.
I did not. I wrote about that in my book. That when I still remember where I was at. I was in a pub in Laguna Beach, and I was watching the TV, and it came across Barack Obama has been elected president of the United States. And what I felt inside was so weird because I felt, excited or thankful, I guess, appreciative that a black man became president. But then it was overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed with just apathy, just a darkness, a kind of depression, feeling like this guy is not going to represent the black community well.
Let's jump to this next story from Axios. This is actually from last week, and I think you guys probably already talked about it, but we got this. Check this out. Prosecutors' audio shows Biden's memory lapses. Now, in this video that Axios put out, I got questions about why Axios, who called out at the White House Correspondents' Dinner that they missed the Joe Biden story of his cognitive issues, now has audio leaked to them somehow of this interview with her, and Biden struggles to remember anything.
So during this time, we were living in Chambers Road, and there were documents related to the Penn Biden Center or the Biden or the cancer booster shot or your book. Where did you keep papers that related to those things that you were actively working on?
Well, I don't know. This is what, 2017, 18, that area?
All right, so I'm going to pause it there. You get the general idea. We don't listen to 4 minutes of him stuttering, confused. He then goes on to bring up his son. Now, the reason I played this video, because you compound this with the cancer story, and we have a very, very serious question of the... Let me put it this way. When I was talking to Dr. Drew earlier, I asked him if there was any combination of these ailments that would say void a contract that he signed. You know, if you show up to a bank to get a loan and then it turns out you were whacked out on goofballs,
Right.
you can get that contract voided and say you were impaired. You couldn't legally enter this contract.
Yep.
Well, the question I have then is, could there have been any combination of medical drugs or diagnoses that he was suffering that would void the legal standing of what he was doing? Which means even if he did sign off on those pardons, they're void.
I think it should be void just for the pure fact that it was AutoPen.
I agree as well. I think AutoPen should be illegal.
Absolutely.
And I think nobody should be using it. And I don't think it should ever be used again, and that should be banned. But even outside of that, if they come out and say, who did this? Let's say they do a hearing and they say, Joe Biden, did you authorize these pardons? And he goes, yes, I did, 100%. Then the question should be like, okay, we want all information related to your state of mind, your medical diagnoses, and the medication you were taking to determine whether or not this is a legitimate order.
Yeah, absoluther. Yeah.
He was on some kind of
mental
medication.
impairment.
Like his face kept changing. Like remember, it was balloon out. He had the weird chins.
He had the mash on his face.
What about
They called sleep apnea.
What about What about when he scratched his neck? You saw the video, I'm sure, and it wrinkled like it was a mask on. I know you've seen that.
Well, that's
Now we're talking.
now we're just talking about old guy's skin.
I don't know.
Or a guy in a
that
mask.
was a bunch of
Or a
ripple.
Or a guy in a mask.
Or it's got to be. That was like a whole bunch of. That was like a rubbery ripple. I know
You think they got? You think they got like Mission
I think
Impossible
they do.
masks?
Oh,
to
yeah.
form
Of course they
Of
do.
course they do. You've seen the CIA lady talk about it. The lady that worked in Hollywood that said the CIA came
Exactly.
to us in the 60s.
Yeah.
Well, I
They've been working on that.
gotta say, it is a fun idea, but I prefer the politically expedient. Joe Biden was Joe Biden the whole time and incapable of doing the job.
It's
Well,
hard
yeah,
to believe,
100%.
but I see
still
it.
say go back to the impairment. What was he on? What drugs was he on? What was he dealing with? Absolutely.
Remember his teeth falling out
On stage during the debate.
on stage.
This
Yeah.
was 2019 or whatever.
He's been rotting for years.
He turned around and you can see him doing
Moving
something with his
teeth,
hand.
Yeah. Well,
His teeth were falling out while he was talking.
I think it's scary, the kind of stuff that is going to come out
Look, man,
at some point.
We all get old. You know what I mean? You know, your day will come. You know, you'll be in diapers. I'll be in diapers. Who knows what's going to happen?
I ain't being in no diaper. Not happening. Not happening.
Well, you know, I will say I don't consider Joe Biden to be a guy who kind of takes care of himself
Right.
like so many Americans. So maybe it's just him was in the diaper.
With the doctor as a wife, though, you'd think he's taken very good care of.
Yeah. How did Dr. Jill miss this?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I want to know.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that are upset when you make the doctor joke. They're like, "You're messing up an MD with a PhD."
Okay, I got to stop. I got to
the
stop.
point?
Just because a lot of people may not know this, I have to make sure everyone understands she's not even a PhD or an MD. She has a, what is it, like a
Doctorate in teaching or something?
an education or something.
Education. Doctorate in
which is,
education.
it means nothing.
Worst
Literally
kind.
nothing.
The worst kind.
Unless you're listening to Whoopi. She's a doctor. Right? Dr. Jill.
Yup.
Whoopi went off.
Man, these
Dr.
people
Jill.
are dumb.
It's ridiculous.
That's
abuse.
uncanny how close he looks to, what's the comedian that's got the
Puppet.
Yeah, what's his
Oh
name?
my
The
God,
puppet. The
yeah,
hand up the
puppet,
guy.
yeah.
He's got the ornery guy. What's his name?
Forget it. I don't know the
I
type.
can't think
I
of his
can
name,
find
but he has Jose Jalapeno.
Yeah. He's got like the terrorist.
He's got the terrorist.
Yeah.
Ahmed.
Ahmed, of course.
Huh? Yes, Jeff
Dunham.
Dunham.
Do it.
That is like spitting image
Yeah.
And the funny
of
thing,
that dummy that Jeff
it
Dunham
is,
uses.
but it's like it's the post facelift Joe Biden that actually makes him look like that. When you look at young Joe Biden, it doesn't look like he doesn't have that same kind of
looks
pulled
totally
taut
different.
face.
Different
So,
Joe Biden.
It's post facelift Joe Biden.
Probably a different Joe Biden.
Yeah, he's probably gotten
Totally
surgeries.
Yeah, he's had a lot.
I think the puppet you're referring to is Walter.
Yeah, Walter.
Is that the name of the
Yeah,
puppet?
Jeff Dunham. Jeff Dunham, and I think it's Walter, is the old guy.
Both puppets.
Both puppets. But that is uncanny.
Oh, yeah. But Walter doesn't have. Yeah, hold on, let me pull it up.
You see him?
That's funny. I'm trying to find a good picture to pull up. Let's do this one. It's probably going to be too small.
That
I figured.
face is-
Whatever.
That's the face right there.
Yep.
He's got the face.
Hilarious. Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Maybe there's a. Google always turns back these tiny pictures. You can't really see anything. Walter.
That very pointy nose.
Can
Yeah, that's
someone
it.
Photoshop Walter into the photo with the Bidens and the Carters?
Or just Photoshop Biden's face onto Walter.
That's
There you
it.
go.
You know, and people are saying, don't be mean, he's got cancer. And it's like, well, then the Biden administration shouldn't have hunted down that old lady with cancer to put her in prison for peacefully protesting.
yeah.
Like, come on. Come on. Joe Biden's done so many things that we believe to be illegal.
Yeah.
And he's faced no accountability for it. That when some little old lady with cancer was walking around on J6, not a rioter by any means, and then they hunted her down to put her in prison and she had cancer, it's like, okay, you get the sympathy you give. Golden rule, baby. I'm happy to return the favor. Joe Biden, you go to jail. We don't care if you're
Straight to jail.
They can cure cancer in Alcatraz.
Straight to jail.
Yeah, he should definitely go to Alcatraz.
I'd love it,
Or
yeah.
Gitmo.
Yeah.
just him.
Chemo's fine.
Only one.
Just him.
Just Joe and Gitmo.
Just Joe and Gitmo.
warm. Look, he's an old guy. He wanted to be someplace warm.
That's a new
Get some
t-shirt,
sun.
Joe for Gitmo.
You know,
It's too nice.
Man,
on the beach.
we've had presidents who, you know, Ronald Reagan in his later years was out of it.
Yep.
Yep.
We've had presidents with no legs, and they pretended like they had legs.
But they were out of office.
Well,
Reagan was out of office before.
no,
he
towards
was-
the
no,
end.
no,
Towards
like
the end.
yeah, towards the end he was slipping.
Was he towards the end?
Yeah,
He
yeah,
got shot. Yeah.
yeah. So, but my point is this:
Shot.
Darth Vader was the VP at the time, so
have we had an entire
Oh,
presidency
that's right.
I don't
Bush
think
took
so.
over.
be legally in question?
I don't think so.
What was that?
I said, have we ever had a presidency be entirely in legal question?
not that I'm aware of.
Anything he did could be challenged
Yeah.
under the fact that he was cognitively impaired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's completely reasonable to at least to make the argument. Like, hey, look, he was obviously impaired.
Well,
I got a question for some doctors and lawyers in the house. If an 83-year-old man enters into a bank to get a loan and signs documents for his house as collateral for a loan, and they give it to him. And then a week later, he's found to be cognitively impaired and has been. Will that contract stand?
Great
Or
question.
will the judge say, no, this man is clearly suffering from dementia and did not have the capabilities to enter into this contract? Because I think that's fair to say Joe Biden.
The bank would try to keep his house.
For sure. Yeah. But don't matter.
The law would probably come in and say, nah.
The question is what's reasonable.
Yeah, exactly.
And let's just, this is what really bothers me about law is that a lot of people seem to think that law is a gigantic great wall that can't be moved.
Right.
Judges can literally be like, no, I don't care.
Yeah, they are.
A judge can literally
They are.
rule, I don't care. It can be like, the law says you can't steal chocolate bars. And he goes, nah, free you go.
Yeah.
Case dismissed.
Right.
And then you're like, what? Too bad. And so in this regard, okay, if an 83-year-old man was standing before me and he was confused as to why his house was being taken by the bank, and they said, well, he took a loan. He'd be like, I was confused. I'd be like, he was confused. Stop. Pay back the money, whatever you can. You guys stop giving out loans to old, infirm men, but you're not taking the house.
Yeah.
We're not going to be dealing with an 83-year-old homeless guy. In that regard, I think it's reasonable. Now, what about Joe Biden? Afghan withdrawal.
Yeah.
The pardons he's issued, any of his executive orders. I got no problem saying, nope, old man, cognitively impaired, let's not impose that on the country. The dude famously said Libya when he meant Syria. And that creates an impasse. Let's say you are working underneath Joe Biden, and he's sitting in a room, and he goes, well, we got to get some more troops in Libya. Mr. President, I don't want to hear it. You know, got to get it done. Go. And then they're like, okay. These two guys look at each other and they go, I think he meant Syria. Yeah, but he didn't say Syria. So what do? Do we follow his order and deploy troops into Libya? Or do we understand what he meant with Syria and send troops into Syria? Well,
now you're playing the big tech role because that's what they did every time they'd slam us for fake news. Oh, that's not what they meant. They actually meant this.
That Joe Biden meant Libya. I mean, that he meant Syria. Sorry.
Right.
He was talking about Syria and he kept calling it Libya.
Mm-hmm.
You have to choose to defy the orders of the president or send the troops to the wrong country.
Right.
Pick one.
I don't think he was in
No-win
control
situation.
at all the last 4 years.
No.
It was an entirely
Well, hold on.
fake
That's why they
administration.
You think that Joe Biden knew he was not in control? He did
I
say
think
the
that's a
Harris
good
presidency over and over again.
Yeah, I think they created a simulation around him to make him believe he was somewhat in charge. I do.
He kept saying President Harris.
Yeah. Well, that's because
Yeah.
his brain was totally mush.
I think that
Or it wasn't.
Yeah.
I think you might be right, and I think that a lot of the reason why he believed that he was still in charge and stuff was because of his wife, because of Biden.
You just have ice cream,
Handlers,
Joe.
His wife, his handlers.
Well, she,
you were at
because
the
she
White,
would
you were at the
be
White House
advocating
not too long
for him.
ago,
She
and
would
they were
be
talking
saying,
about
hey,
how
you know,
the handlers would walk him everywhere. They'd have to walk him and tell him exactly, where he was going. Like he couldn't make it to one part of the White House to the other part of the White House on his own.
Look at
He
how the
didn't know where he was
media.
at.
Look how they colluded with the media. He would have all the names of the reporters to call on, the questions beforehand. It was an illusion.
Yeah, his
for
staff
him
was-
to look like he was
the
cognitive
beginning.
from the whole time. for
Jill
sure.
was walking, like Jill was there with him, intervening on his behalf for with the staff and stuff,
Yep.
with his advisors and stuff. She was sitting in on some of the meetings, or at least there were reports. I don't know how many she was actually in on, but she was sitting on meetings and stuff. So I imagine that she was doing her best to keep him, in office, prevent the cabinet and the vice president from making any kind of 25th Amendment.
Well, did you hear as well? I had somebody on my show that was exposing some of the behind the scenes stuff with Biden, and he would actually have pre-cabinet meetings.
Really?
He would have pre-cabinet meetings to prep him and get him ready for the cabinet meeting, so his cabinet could come in and he would be, seem mostly there before they'd leave. He would consistently have these pre-cabinet meetings before he meet with the cabinet.
I didn't hear that, but it doesn't surprise me. I mean, he was clearly incapable of doing the job, performing the
100%. He wasn't there.
the office of the
Let's jump to this story. We've got this tweet. Rep. James Comer believes they've identified the staffers involved in the use of AutoPen when Biden was clearly in mental decline.
You are going and looking at who is controlling this AutoPen, because Joe Biden, he's demonstrating that he doesn't have all the cognitive capabilities they had. That interview was from 2023.
Yeah, that's hard evidence. Early in the President Biden's term as president, it clearly shows that he was in significant mental decline. It questions who was actually making the decisions. So what we found is not just with the pardons he issued, but many of the executive orders that the courts are now using to Trump-proof many of the executive orders that President Trump is trying to implement to make government more efficient. Many of these executive orders, as well as the pardons of Biden's entire family as a result of our investigation, these were all signed with the auto pen. And clearly from that interview, which was many, many months prior to the heavy use of the auto pen, Joe Biden wasn't capable of making decisions. He wasn't coherent. We think we've identified who the staffers are. Jason, you all have done great work with that over at Heritage Oversight. We're going to bring everyone that we believe was involved in any role in the use of the auto pen. We're going to invite them to come in for a transcribed interview. If they want, then they will receive a subpoena and they will have a full-blown deposition. But we want to find out who was actually making the decisions.
So big. If they actually have hearings with subpoenas and bring these people in, it's real simple. You grant them immunity, and they can't plead the fifth.
Right.
And then we figure out who knew what, who was doing what, and how much involvement did Biden have. And this could void executive orders. It could void his pardons.
Well, executive orders were, I think that voiding the pardons is really the important thing, because the executive orders, those were largely all turned over when Trump got into office. They just undid the stuff that Biden did. But it would be good to void pardons and then to investigate the people that he'd pardoned.
Oh, Fauci.
Fauci, people like his
100%
family.
Those child predators, I think, in Pennsylvania.
What was it, like 1,700 pardons or something?
Some astronomical.
You're referring to the Biden family?
Nice. But yes, them too. Remember how many, remember his speeches being so edited?
Oh, yeah.
He couldn't sit and do a whole speech.
Jump cuts?
All the jump cuts. Even his live Oval Office speeches looked pre-recorded and edited.
They were.
And it was
Totally.
a fake Oval Office.
They
You saw
used,
the fake
it was
Saw it.
it was the basement, I think.
The fake Oval Office with the, that's where he did the vaccinations. That was also great.
And they had like a fake Oval Office background. Was it because Harris was actually sitting up there?
Right?
I mean, he kept saying.
Did you go to that underneath there where Kaylee was at? Or not Kaylee, I'm sorry.
No, I've never been there. Oh, is that where they did the
That's where they did
new media briefing?
Yeah, it's where they did
I didn't go to that
new
one.
media briefing.
I went to the old media room with all the old media people who were mad at me.
Oh, yeah.
There's a bowling
They had
alley
another
down
one
there.
like that.
Interesting.
But they redid it. They redid it for
Yeah.
because that's what it was. It was the fake Oval Office.
Yeah, it's so weird.
It's like, why did they do that? It was all theater.
Yeah.
That's why it all felt fake to everybody. It was
Still
all
feels
theater.
fake.
It does.
It
It still
does.
feels fake.
Yep.
How are we where we are with them now saying, we had an exam and just found out that he has a terminal stage 4 cancer that went to his bones. And it's like, that takes like 5 to 10 years. And all I did was a cursory Google search, right? You do a regular Google search and it says, on average, it takes 10 to 20 years to metastasize to the bone. If it's aggressive, it can take 4 or so years. And then Dr. Drew was like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years.
They recommend that they stop the prostate exam at 70, right? I heard that they recommend you stop it because of how long it takes to actually develop, and it's like
they do PSA. It's called prostate-specific antigens, I think it's called, something like that. Tests, PSA tests. But the interesting thing is, on MSNBC, they had a doctor. His name was it Vin Gupta? I think his name might have been. He said, we have the records for Bush Sr., Obama, Trump, not Biden.
Wow.
For some reason, the records on Biden's exam just are not there.
There you go.
Can't access them.
He turned down the cognitive test.
yeah.
Yep, because he would have failed it.
Clearly hiding something.
Yeah.
Well, he couldn't be held accountable for keeping classified documents in his basement next to his Corvette because he didn't know what he was doing.
It is, like we've said it a couple of times already, but this is probably the biggest scandal that's ever happened in the White House, because up until this kind of era, the media would have not taken the side of the president in the way of the administration the way they did. Their ridiculous hatred of Donald Trump and their constant search for access, because that's really what I think the real motivation was, not money, but actually the desire for access to the White House and to people in the administration, whether it be the president or people that would become president or in the bureaucracy. in the future. They were looking to keep those relationships, in the positive light, and so they weren't doing what the media is supposed to do, which is hold the administration to account, even if it's quote unquote your party. It has gotten so bad that the media just could not be relied on to do something as simple as say, "Look, there's a problem here."
I think there was a coup from within. Really, I think they propped up a dead man.
Yeah,
and it reminds me of the business plot. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
This is way before our time, but that's Smedley Butler, FDR. First year, it was 1933. Yep. DuPont, Morgan, all these rich, powerful industrialists were paying for a coup. Smedley Butler being like a decorated Marine.
Yep.
Fought with Teddy Roosevelt, went to Haiti, went to China, and he was like the whistleblower with, calling that out. This sounds so similar to me. We don't have a whistleblower yet being like, yeah, from the inside, they took him out, and they just took over. That was who was running the auto pen the whole time.
Yep.
Well, Smedley Butler, he came out and said, look what they're trying to do. I don't understand why we would assume they failed.
I agree. And the media actually covered up for FDR at the time. They said Smedley sounded insane.
Who owned the media?
Right. All of them.
Yeah.
And then they made a lot of money off World War II. DuPont made all the gunpowder for every war in America. Since dating back to the Revolution, I believe.
Well, and that's the other question is I wonder how many of the media actually believe their lies and their hate. Do they really hate or follow the money?
I think they hate.
Who's funding the people that are promoting the lies? Because these people can't all be really that stupid.
Well, the argument,
you know what I mean?
Yes,
the kind of argument that I make about it is it's not about the money, it's about access. Right? If you can call someone in the administration and say, hey, can I get tickets to this? Or there's a guy that's making a problem over here, or this is going on, or that's going on, and have someone in the administration call someone they know and make a problem go away, that's better than money because you can't get taxed on it.
So since they can't get that from the Trump administration, they want somebody in there, a Democrat, that'll give them that kind of access. And it's because power is power.
Yeah, exactly. Power is better than money. The point of money is power. The point of having money is the ability to make things happen in the world. And if you pay someone off, well, there's a trail. But if it's just, hey, buddy, we're friends, we're homies. Can you do this for me? Do you know someone over there that can do something? Can someone at the DOJ look at this guy? Make this guy's life hard so that he stops looking at me. All those kind of things are way more, that kind of access is way more valuable than money. So what the media wanted and what people in the bureaucracy want is access. We had, I forget who it was. We had another person that was in here that used to be a journalist, Tara.
Mm-hmm. Still considers herself a journalist.
Well, fair enough. But she was the point that she was making. One of the few things that we agreed on is access is the primary goal of people in the media now, or at least in the Democrats. They wanted to be able to have the phone numbers of people in the administration, so that way it doesn't matter if you're calling Joe Biden or if you're calling Jill Biden. Can you call someone on his staff? Can you call the chief of staff? Can you call someone? You don't want the director of whatever. You want his secretary's number, and these people can make phone calls and they can make things happen. And like I said, it's better than money because it's not traceable. You don't get taxed on it. You don't have to worry about getting, you make your $500,000, $250,000 a year. You can live in Loudoun County. You get a nice place. You live, outside of Langley or whatever it is. And you've got a really nice life, but you don't have to have $1 billion because this guy that can get you tickets to the nice restaurants.
How well it's working out for Jake Tapper.
I mean, true.
He's got great PR right now. His book comes out tomorrow.
Yeah.
About this very thing.
The money is not the important thing. The point is, can you call someone and get yourself tickets to the show or whatever?
The American people should sue Jake Tapper and take his book money.
Yeah, they should.
You lied to us and you knew about it. Now you're making money off it.
Oh.
It's their favorite thing.
Yeah.
They're parasites. All the journalists that did this. Yeah, they literally, and then we talked about that recently.
Wasn't that funny? Like, Tara was like, I've never heard them called vultures. And then I pulled up the Vulture Club.
Yep.
It's like, they call themselves vultures.
Literally circling a dead body.
Yep, that's what they do. That's why they call themselves that. That's what these people are. Yep. It's funny because I think the average American really doesn't understand how depraved journalists typically are. Not all of them. Some are pretty good. But you know what I find is that you've pretty much got activists masquerading as journalists. Then you've got what would we call this? The corporate networking journalists. I was in Ferguson during the riots, and there were journalists, I put air quotes, walking around, literally networking and saying, I came here to network. I hope I get to meet Anderson.
Yeah.
That's what they were there for. networking event as buildings burned down and people's lives were
Your
destroyed.
network is the most important thing in the world. Like who you know and who you can call and ask for favors or whatever. Like in the music industry, like you can make the best record ever. You can put a great record out, but if you don't have friends in the music industry, it's not going to get onto playlists on Spotify.
Right.
It's not going to get. You're not going to get onto shows. If you don't have a good booking agent, you're not going to get a booking agent unless you know people. I mean,
But you're trying to share art, and these people are trying to totally twist the truth to manipulate the entire.
the point that I'm making is your network of people applies in whatever field. Doesn't
sure.
matter whether it's politics or whatever. You know.
Before we jump to this next story, I just want to say one thing. If you guys haven't seen it, go to YouTube or youtube.com/Timcast or rumble.com/Timpool and watch the Tim and Adam Conover Culture War episode, which aired on Friday. It's getting a lot of play. Several of the clips have gone pretty, massive with millions of hits. An instance where he claimed, Adam said he was for free speech and he was upset over the termination of visas of students criticizing Israel, and that it's bad to live in a country where student visas can be revoked. I said, go to the UK and mock Islam. Do it. And he was like, and he got all flabbergasted and didn't have an answer. So there's some of these clips. The one thing I want to say is, because I shout out to Asmongold. I didn't want to do like a whole segment talking about this, but I just wanted to mention, he did a video talking about the conversation I had where Adam Conover didn't know, or he lied. He said that, I said Donald Trump did not call neo-Nazis very fine people. And he's like, right. He said they were fine people on both sides. And then I said, except the neo-Nazis and white nationalists, they should be condemned totally. And he goes, he said that. And then when I pulled it up, he goes, well, I don't know anything about it, despite the fact he previously stated the quote. And in the segment, Asman was saying that I was going too aggro and it was less effective because of how aggro I was going. And I just wanted to mention this. I recommend you guys watch it. You decide for yourself. But the one thing I will say in that regard is I don't do sit-downs with people like Adam Conover and a couple more coming up, which are going to be big, so that I can try and win hearts and minds over. I do it because I want to have a conversation with the person. And so if after an hour and a half I'm aggravated, that's what comes out on the show. If that makes me bad at my job, then I apologize, but that's what I do. So I do recommend you guys watch that because it was something else. And we're going to have another one very much like it very soon. Let's jump to this next story. This is huge news from the Post-Millennial. DOJ files charges against Rep. LaMonica McIver for assaulting, impeding, and interfering with law enforcement. That conduct cannot be overlooked by the chief federal law enforcement official in the state of New Jersey. Epic.
Boom.
Look at this. Acting U.S. Attorney for New Jersey, Alina Habba, announced on Monday that her office has filed charges against Rep. LaMonica McIver for assaulting, impeding, and interfering with law enforcement. McIver was seen on body camera pushing her way past security guards of Delaney Hall. The Newark mayor was arrested. I want to pause real quick. Did you guys know that she closed fist punched an ICE officer?
No.
How come nobody's been talking about this?
I
It's on
didn't see
video,
that.
right?
It's on video.
Closed fist punch? I didn't
That's
see
right. I'm going to pull it up. The DHS posted it.
that. Good.
Here you go.
To be,
Here's the video. So here you can see her just shoving, right?
that's what I saw.
Now I want to pause real quick. A lot of people don't know the context. This is after they were already inside and left, and the police came out to arrest the Newark mayor. They reacted like this to the arrest. Now watch this. You will see her closed fist punch an ICE officer. She's wearing the red, right? There. So okay, no, that's not it.
That's not even it?
Nope. You see that slam?
I can't tell what she's hitting. Yet.
Right, but watch this. Right here. Look at this cop right here. He's wearing a police, I believe it's ICE. He might be HSI. And here's the rep. Watch. Boom.
Punch him in the shoulder.
That's right. Closed fist punch to the shoulder.
Yeah. It's assault.
Unquestionable.
It's assault.
That was a closed
Straight to jail.
fist strike
Straight to jail.
to federal law enforcement.
Yeah.
So yeah, assaulting an officer. She should be locked up. We got the official statement right here. Check it out.
Lock her up.
And this just dropped, looks like at 8 p.m. I take my obligations as U.S. Attorney seriously. I understand the responsibility that comes with my position, and I work diligently to uphold the law and deliver justice to the people of New Jersey. After extensive consideration, we have agreed to dismiss Mayor Baraka's misdemeanor charge of trespass for the sake of moving forward. In the spirit of public interest, I've invited the mayor to tour Delaney Hall. The government has nothing to hide at this facility, and I will personally accompany the mayor so we can see that firsthand. The citizens of New Jersey deserve unified leadership so we can work to keep our state safe. The dismissal against the mayor is not the end of this matter. Congressional oversight is an important constitutional function and one that I fully support. However, that is not the issue in this case. Representative LaMonica McIver assaulted, impeded, and interfered with law enforcement in violation of Title 18 USC Section 111A1. That conduct cannot be overlooked by the chief federal law enforcement official in the state of New Jersey, and it is my constitutional obligation to ensure that our federal law enforcement is protected when executing their duties. I have persistently made efforts to address these issues without bringing criminal charges and have given Rep. McIver every opportunity to come to a resolution, which has unfortunately declined. No one is above the law, politicians or otherwise. It is the job of this office to uphold justice impartially, regardless of who you are. Now we will let the justice system work. I say, lock her up.
Yep.
Lock her up. Absolutely.
Right to jail.
Straight to jail.
Right to jail. Believe it or not, jail.
Believe it or not. I mean, there shouldn't be a whole lot of question about whether or not, she should go to jail. If she's assaulting.
No. Yeah, throw her in jail.
If she's assaulting officers, throw her in jail. It's good enough for people that were, assaulting officers on January 6th. They should go to jail. She should go to jail too. Mm-hmm. Easy. Yep. And the arguments against it, they're just partisan arguments, just about, it's my team, and so they shouldn't. Send her to jail. Put her, arrest her.
We really are in crazy times.
Insane.
Insane times. Last week, the scientists said the Earth was going to end on a definite day in a billion years. And that
in a billion years?
Yeah, in a billion years. And then here we are with Joe Biden.
We have this story too, and I know this is the sensational one. It's like, a member of Congress could be going to prison or jail. I don't know if they'll give her prison. But there was that bombing at the IVF center.
Yeah.
And that was a leftist.
Yeah.
It was, and
antinatalist.
And I'm going to say leftist because people on the right are all about babies and lots of babies.
Yep.
I mean, as soon as people heard that it was an IVF place, the knee-jerk reaction was, they're bombing it because it's an abortion. It's related to abortion, blah, blah, blah.
No, because people pro-lifers oppose IVF.
No, what I'm saying is so they were saying, it's pro-lifers, blah, 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 that are about it. But as the story developed, people found out, it's someone that is against having more people, which is, nihilistic purely left.
The issue with IVF is that it creates embryos and then destroys them.
Yeah. So, I oppose IVF, and I wouldn't go after embryos if I oppose it. It doesn't make any sense. It was a leftist incel.
Why do you oppose IVF?
Because they have all these, they make a ton of embryos that are frozen and kept in a thing. And then it's like, what do you do with those? I don't know if they destroy them or when they destroy them. I think it might be an individual thing on what you want to pay for.
We have this member of Congress, and that's big news. But then we had this guy, he's an antinatalist, and he's he took a terroristic action. Around the same time, Hillary Clinton was also telling people not to have babies and mocking natalism in general, saying just bring in immigrants, they'll replace the people we're not having, saying women should not be mother. Like,
it's such a ghoul.
She's insane.
Deny your biology.
Well, the question is, are we dealing with something unprecedented, or is this just the state of the United States? Is it normal that people go and bomb things and politicians are getting arrested?
I mean, look, the late 60s and early 70s, there was, I think it was between 71 and 72, there was like 2,500 bombings in the United States.
Right.
And I don't know how many people were killed, but it was significantly more volatile than it is nowadays. I think that the ability to transmit information makes people more aware of things that are going on. Mm-hmm. So if there were 2,500 bombings in a year nowadays, they would be, pumped directly into your phone, and they would be, spun for whatever political use that people could make of them. Particularly nowadays, if there was leftist bombings, I think that we would end up with, people saying, all right, I don't care what happened. I don't care about the consequences. Bring out the jackboot thugs and stop this. Probably, 100 bombings, and you'd have most normal Americans saying, militarize the police and put an end to this. Right. Because people don't have the tolerance nowadays.
I did another interview with, you guys know Adam Friedland?
Yeah.
Funny guy. Funny guy.
He's
So
really funny.
I went on his show, and it was very silly and very funny. And he was great. I don't know if he's overtly political, but
yeah, he's hilarious.
it was tough for me because he's like I don't know what the right word is. Edgy.
Very dry. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm not that kind of guy, you know what I mean, sometimes, but he was a funny guy. But he was saying, look, this is normal. This stuff happens all the time. We had bombings in the 60s and 70s. Why would anyone assume that this is anything different or anything crazy?
A famous actor assassinated Lincoln. Like
Right.
everyone knew
Yeah.
him as an actor. Him and his brother were famous actors, and everyone was like, I talked to people when I was doing the book in Georgia, and they were like, everyone thinks of him as like the Tom Cruise of the day. Like it's how popular John Wilkes Booth was
What?
of the time. Yeah,
Tom Cruise
they
in
used
that
to
day.
play. They used to
didn't
play,
realize that.
do plays at the White House.
Really?
They were big.
Wow.
And then it's not like it's just some dude.
So who right now is like the most TDS prominent A-lister?
There's a few of them.
Because Tom Cruise is not like that.
No.
Tom Cruise,
Tom Cruise is the
specifically
greatest
said-
living actor.
He specifically said people were asking him questions about politics when he was doing because he just finished.
Final Reckoning?
What?
Final Reckoning?
The new Mission Impossible
Yeah.
coming out. He was doing a press tour for that, and someone asked him questions about politics, and he was like, "Can we just answer questions?"
Pedro
please.
Pascal's that.
That, yes.
pretty-
He's
Actually,
pretty
you go.
leftist.
it would be
yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
That dude's nuts.
Yeah, he's totally
nuts.
nuts.
And you know what? I got to say this. He's a
is.
great actor, but please stop casting him in everything.
Right.
I'm not kidding. Like,
Yeah.
he does a great job. Mandalorian's great. I think he does well, but not when he's literally in every single movie.
Yeah, maybe it'd be like a podcaster though these days, like a Sam Harris.
But the network, the studios are cliquey like that. You know, Hollywood is changing. It's going under because so many, not to mention just because of California's politics. And how strict they're putting on businesses, period. And the fact that, I'm a California kid. I was born and raised in California. I love California. My family's still in California. My dad's there right now. My dad's actually in the hospital right now in California, so say a prayer for my pops. But he's stable and everything should be good. Otherwise, I'd be there right now. But the amount of illegals and the stupid laws, like you can crap on the street, literally, in the Bay Area, but you get a fine for using a plastic straw.
Incredible.
Like they created an entire department and gave people 120,000 plus a year jobs with benefits to go clean up feces off the street.
Amazing.
But then $1,000 fine or whatever it is, if you use a plastic straw. Like they banned plastic straws. Like the politics in California are. So a lot of the and now mix that to the wokeism in the studios.
Yeah,
And I've had a few Hollywood individuals on the show, and they just said their studios are leaving.
Yeah.
And the individuals that are not woke are going to other states and they're launching studios.
yeah. Matthew McConaughey, Nick Pizzolatto, and Woody Harrelson late last year put out a whole video how they're moving like the new Hollywood to Austin. I think to Austin, somewhere in Texas, because they're all moving out there.
Tyler Perry's got his own makeshift. It's like one of the largest studios in the country in Atlanta.
Look,
He's like a billionaire, isn't he?
Oh yeah, he's a billionaire. Oh yeah, he's done it. He's got a exact replica of the White House
Yeah. For movies.
for movies.
Yeah, that's awesome.
California has capitalized on their absolutely amazing weather and the uniqueness of a place where you can literally go skiing during the day and then be on the beach by the nighttime.
Yeah.
They've capitalized on it, and they've really taken to abusing the population,
Oh, it's so abused.
expecting them to stay because it is such a unique and great place. I love California. I've been there. I've spent a ton of time out there.
But the Palisades fire, don't get me started.
But people can only take so much. You've heard how many
Car fire.
how many buildings have they actually started to rebuild? How many permits have they issued to rebuild anything in the Palisades? I heard it was on the order of 4.
I don't even know if it's that many, but most people are selling because they can't afford to rebuild
And
there.
that's something that the government's involved in too. They're saying you can't sell this because we don't want these big companies coming in and BlackRock coming in and just owning all of the property.
I was just thinking when you mentioned Tyler Perry's got a replica of the White House, that's where they filmed Civil War. Yeah. And I was thinking, I was like, yeah, I don't know. Oh, that's right. That movie Civil War, they filmed it there. And I started thinking about it, and I'm like, I did that interview with Adam Friedland, and he was asking about Civil War, saying that nothing ever happens, and that's a silly thing to talk about. And my response to that, I'm just thinking about right now, I'm like, why did they make that movie? Why did they make a movie called Civil War? Why was it getting so much attention? What is in the air nationally in this conversation that led to the creation of that film? Because I certainly don't think I'm responsible for any kind of concern over a potential civil war or anything like that. I think people are recognizing something happening in this country, and that's why people get polled, and like half of the younger generation says they think a civil war is coming, to the point where a major studio is like, let's make a movie because we're going to sell tickets to this thing.
I mean, look, I'm biased, but I'm biased, but I think that it's the left. Like the left in the U.S. is more influential now than it has been at any other time since the 60s. There was, and obviously we had a lot
Because of education.
because of the indoctrination in public schools and in the institutes of learning and in the schools of education. So it's not just in colleges, it's in the schools that teach teachers. So when you're taught how to be a teacher, you're taught to worry about things like the leftist ideology, and that's
Marxism.
Baked into the
taught Marxism.
It's baked into the education, and so you end up with college kids that are literally steeped in leftism.
Let's jump to this next story from Mediaites. Kash Patel and Dan Bongino are now officially part of the deep state. Yes, they made it. Congratulations, boys. You're in the club. I'm so excited for this.
We made it.
So this is Kash and Dan gave an interview, and they said they don't actually have the video here. They said in the video that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself, and I actually want to get the clip because I don't want to just read it. I want to actually.
That's insane to me. That really is insane to me. Like, what did they see? What did Kash and Dan see?
Here we go.
That they literally think Epstein killed himself.
Let's play the clip if it plays.
That's insane to me.
What is? I pulled the clip.
You said
here we go.
Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. People don't believe it.
Well, I mean, listen, they have a right to their opinion, but as someone who has worked as a public defender, as a prosecutor, who's been in that prison system, who's been in the Metropolitan Detention Center, who's been in segregated housing, you know a suicide when you see one, and that's what that was.
He killed himself. You want me to? I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
So here's a question for you guys:
That's insane.
Kash, or actually, let's throw this in the mix. Glenn Beck calls out Trump's FBI brass rejecting Epstein conspiracy. What changed Patel and Bongino's minds? Here's what I want to say first and foremost. I still find it hard to believe. But that being said, who would you trust? Like, if Kash and Dan were literally people like banging on the table, begging, being like, this is exactly who I need to get in.
Right.
They turn around and go, guys, we looked at the file. He killed himself. And they're like, nope, I don't believe you. And it's like, well, hold on.
I don't know if I don't believe them. I just think it's insane that they're saying that. That's crazy.
I'm not saying you do, but like there's a lot of people who are like, nope, they're liars. They're corrupted. They're compromised. And I'm like,
I wouldn't go that far. I would go that far.
Or they're telling the truth. You sent in the guys you wanted to. I do not believe Dan Bongino gave up an 8-figure podcast empire to discredit and disgrace himself.
No.
However, there's two things to consider. In Dan Bongino's formal statement, he said, this is the evidence we have. And so I said this before. They are giving you an official statement as the FBI, not as themselves. Meaning, here's the file. Here's what it says. It says Epstein killed himself. Dan said, if new evidence comes out, we will absolutely review it. But this is what we have right now.
But he said, I've seen the file, and he's killed himself. I mean, it sounds like he's saying that's what he believes. So again, unless we see the file, I mean, they say they're going to release it, right?
Yeah, we should all see the file.
They say they're going to release it.
Let's entertain a possibility. Let me ask you a question, David. You one day go to the White House, and then you're invited into a meeting where they tell you outright, high-level Trump administration officials are engaged in extremely illegal behavior. They're doing really, really bad stuff. But if you tell anybody, it'll destroy the economy. It'll wipe out everyone's 401ks. It's going to destroy the country. Would you come out and tell everybody the truth?
I mean, that's a hard hypothetical, right? And it's a hypothetical with President Trump. It'd be more logical if I was a leftist or a Democrat and Joe Biden in there. I'm sure they did all that kind of stuff all the time. But it's still a hard hypothetical, and and I don't know if it correlates quite to this because
sure it does.
It's Epstein who's been dead now for how many years, right?
Yep.
And so it's kind of old news, although people still want to know the truth.
All right, let's try this.
It's not going to shift. It's not going to shift.
Sure
economy.
Could. Let's say that the reason they're not releasing the files is because the people who are being implicated are high-level executives at some of the Fortune 500 companies. And if the information gets out as to their involvement with children, the stocks of those companies will crumble overnight, wiping out 401ks.
Okay, so it's not Trump we're talking about now. Now it's high-level executives. So again, that makes it more plausible.
Well, no, I'm saying the point is
if they were given the truth, but the truth would actually be catastrophic for the United States of America.
Would they keep lying?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, at that point, if it was me, I don't think I could just go make a statement. I would just be like, I'm just going to stay off of that and we'll go focus on something else.
And that's exactly what they might be doing. They get in there.
But they're making a statement, though. They're saying, we've seen the evidence. We've seen the file. He killed himself. They're making a statement. So they've chose to make the statement.
They're not. The question is, have they launched an investigation into the Epstein stuff? Are they pursuing it, or are they largely ignoring it and doing other things?
Sounds like
So they were asked about this. Cash was asked in Congress, and now they're being asked, and so they're not going to dodge. But it sounds to me there's a strong possibility they both get in. They get the briefing, and they go, the reason why we're not releasing the Epstein documents. And they look, and it's like CEO, politician, Congress, CEO. Yeah, you're going to wipe out about, $17 trillion in market cap when these names drop. And then we're going to have no 401ks, the elderly. It's going to be catastrophic for the U.S. economy. China will then take advantage and win. And so they're like, let's not go anywhere near that.
Right?
I'm not saying they should.
I think it's worth pulling that trigger.
I'd do it.
I think it's worth it. This whole system's
so you'd
been
be
weaponized.
Rorschach.
You'd have to be. If I want,
Watchmen.
Which I think they would. I think they would be too.
Unless
That's
they
the
were
whole
shown,
point.
like, what's the file?
Burn it down. Turn the FBI into a museum.
What's in the file, though? I'd like to see what's in the file. We should all see what's in. Like, what were they?
Are they
showing?
saying that?
Like, they're not saying it yet, but
They're not saying we're gonna
it's
see
not
it?
like there's video in the file. The
Right.
footage went down.
And literally,
people were asleep.
It just says Epstein was found dead. He killed himself.
Okay, I always thought it was a body double. I think he's still alive.
Right? The
I don't
nose,
think
the
anyone
ears,
took-
everything.
It took him, and they.
Where's
Phil's
the
laughing.
Where's the tinfoil?
But Epstein's coming back, and McAfee.
Have y'all seen? You've all seen or read Watchmen?
Yeah, of course.
Are you familiar? Graphic novel. You are. Okay. So at the end of the film, for those that aren't familiar, the gist of the story. It's a 40-year-old story, by the way, so this is not a spoiler alert. Basically, what happens is one of the heroes turns out to be a villain, and he orchestrated a massive false flag where he killed tens of millions of people, staging a fake alien invasion to force the U.S. and Russia to drop the Cold War and unite against a common enemy. Rorschach is one of the heroes, and he says, nope, don't care. People must be told the truth. And they say, if you do this, you'll condemn the world to nuclear annihilation. He says, I don't care. I'm going to tell the truth. And so then Dr. Manhattan, got superpowers, blows him up.
Yep.
Would you be Rorschach or Dr. Manhattan? Condemn the world to nuclear annihilation, but for the truth, or lie to people?
I think you're dead either way. I think
Yeah,
you're a
it's
slave
rough
either way. I think the system is totally bunk. And if you want to have a better future for your children, it's already bad. Everyone's suffering right now. And this whole government's been weaponized against us for at least 100 years, literally. So I don't care if you're going to push that button and expose everything.
I'd probably push it.
I'd
Push it.
If I got in there and I saw
Push
the
the button.
documents, you know what, if it were me,
Expose it all.
if the documents outright said Epstein killed himself and I was head of the FBI, I'd come out and be like, the documents they have claim that he killed himself, but I don't believe it for 2 seconds.
Right. What evidence? If there's no video,
Yeah.
because the video went down, then what actual evidence do they have?
Like they're looking at pictures of a body in the file.
So, I mean, I get what you guys are saying.
I
but
thought, wait, real quick. I thought the examiner actually said at some point that
His hyoid bone.
exactly
Yeah.
was more consistent with not self.
Pretty sure that's
strangulation or something.
that's also
Yeah.
a celebrity guy who's done every hyoid bone in pop culture for the last
okay.
5 decades and worked on JFK's brain. Pretty sure it's the same guy.
Look, I mean,
So no credibility there.
I don't believe anybody.
Okay.
there's the idea that there is no one that would tell you, oh, Epstein did kill himself, and people would accept it. Like, I'm gonna blow up the chat right now. They're gonna hate my guts. But like, the fact that these guys are in there saying, no, this is actually the way that it is. If you can't accept it from these two, then it doesn't matter who says it doesn't matter what you see, it doesn't matter what evidence you see. You will always say it. If you don't confirm,
I don't agree with that.
That's 100%.
I want to see what they saw.
Exactly what's
I
happening.
want to see
No,
what they saw.
listen,
That's all I'm saying.
If
they're saying it
We want
based on
we want
what
the
they
documents
saw.
released.
If you
want
want
the file released?
Exactly. That's all I'm
if you
saying.
want the evidence released, then I'm fine
Release
with that.
it- release it
The point,
so we
listen,
can
the point
make
that I'm
our own
making-
decision.
The point that I'm making is there are a bunch of people out there that are like, no, Epstein definitely killed himself. And if they don't believe, if before Trump was elected, these guys were like, yeah, these are the guys, they're going to get in there and they're going to let us know, they're going to tell us that Epstein didn't kill himself and that blah, blah, blah. And now that they're saying, oh, Epstein actually did kill himself, and they're like, nope, we don't believe it. It's the same mentality that has plagued the internet since, I mean, before COVID, but became
people have made up their minds.
JFK.
Wildfire.
scenario?
Hold on. Wildfire. It's spread like a wildfire since COVID, and because of COVID, because the government has been so, the government and the media have been so unreliable and so dishonest with the American people.
complicit.
It's completely understandable that people don't trust anything that the establishment says that anything that comes from the officials that doesn't confirm their priors, they don't believe it. And it makes perfect sense. But
I'm going to tell you, the most damning evidence. Cash and Dan went on Maria Bartiromo's show on Fox News and not any of the bigger podcasts where they'd have to sit down for several hours.
Yeah,
and the back and forth would be a bit more intense. I mean that half jokingly. I'm like,
and
they
the
could
fact
go on
they're
Rogan in
together?
2 seconds.
Have they been on something together like this? Like they're making a united front on the message that
Tag
Epstein killed
team.
himself.
They could go on Joe Rogan. Like I guarantee you, Dan and Cash could knock on Joe Rogan's door and say, as the heads of the FBI went have a conversation and do a
100%.
podcast, he'd be like, "Let's go."
Oh, yeah.
Bill, we talked about this.
But real quick, you know what Joe's gonna be like? What was in the file?
Right.
And they're gonna be like, "Well, okay. Well, then what can you tell us?
Right.
Whose names were in the file?
Right.
Give us something."
Short Rogan podcast. It won't be very long. But like Phil and I were talking about this before we went live, and I think it's good to be skeptical of your skepticism because we've been lied to forever. But there's so many weird inconsistencies with the Epstein story, like the footage going out, both security guards going to sleep, the cell phone that the cellmate got all of a sudden, and then he allegedly beat up Epstein, which got him into another cell all alone. That's why it's really hard to believe.
Do you hear
all
what
this stuff.
Jones was saying? That they
I saw a
pumped
little bit.
nitrous into the guard's room to knock him unconscious.
Oh, now we're talking. Okay. Okay. Nitrous is in right now. Everyone's talking about
I don't know, man.
nitrous.
I would say this. When the whole Epstein thing happened, we absolutely on the show entertained the possibility, albeit nobody really thought it was the probability, but the possibility he really did kill himself. Ultra wealthy guy, all this evidence that he was doing awful things to children, and he's like, I don't want to live in a world where people know what I was doing, and that's his life. I think it's slim, considering the information that we got out of the prison and what was going on, and the fact that no one's been exposed since. It sounds more like somebody 86'd the guy.
Right.
But I think he went in knowing he'd get a sweetheart deal no matter what, just knowing how he was treated in Florida. And that he had a sweet little deal. He had to leave the prison after being put in there for really bad things. I don't think he's the kind of guy that went in there being like, oh, my life's over. I think he was like, I'm fine. They're going to come get me.
I think either Cash and Dan looked at the evidence and it literally just is indicative of a suicide and they have nothing else to go on, so there's nothing else to be said, or the information they've uncovered would be so catastrophic they're never going to tell you. I've been saying this forever, man. The office controls the person. You get all idealistic. You think you're going to go in and change everything, and then you're like, okay, I'm sick of this war. I want to get our troops out of the Middle East. And they go, oh, okay, well, here's what no one knows. There's actually 17 ISIS factions that are surrounding, and they've got these weapons, and it's like, oh crap.
Right.
So what happens if we move those troops? Like, oh yeah, ISIS is going to launch a dirty bomb, and here's the dirty bomb, here's the evidence, here's the proof. And then you're like, okay, so can we tell the public about the dirty bomb? No, they'll panic and freak out, and it'll destroy the economy of the area, which will lead to more chaos. So what do? We keep our troops there, and they go, oh. And then you wonder why our leaders are not doing the job they're supposed to do.
When I saw this clip the first time today, I thought of something you said before, where like you get into power, you become president or something, and you're shown that binder, being like, if you get out of line, this is what's coming your way.
Oh, it's a picture of JFK.
Right, yeah.
They just literally slide
in Dallas.
Right.
They're like, the CIA walks in, sits down and says, Mr. President.
Oh, by the way, yeah.
Shakes your hand and go, we just wanted to give you this file. And they open it up. It's a single photograph of JFK. And they slide it across the desk and they say, I hope we've made ourselves clear.
Right.
I just hope.
What if that's what happened at Cash and Dan?
I mean, their body language is off to me. They look a little shook.
Regardless of if he killed himself or not. What
Cash's
about
eyes
the Epstein
look crazy,
list?
and then the silence.
Right?
Is
That's what I want.
always look
Release
crazy.
the Epstein list.
Okay, fine, but crazier here.
every
I
pedo
look at Cash
on
and
the
his
list.
eyes look crazy.
He look crazy
So
here.
what I will say is, Cash doesn't seem off to me, to be honest. But Dan, I don't know. Is this going to play?
Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. People don't believe it.
Well, I mean, listen, they have a right to their opinion, but as someone who has worked as a public defender, as a prosecutor, who's been in that prison system, who's been in the Metropolitan Detention Center, who's been in segregated housing, you know a suicide when you see one, and that's what that was.
He killed himself. You want me to? I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
Dan seems a little, I don't know.
It could be fatigue because it seems like I'm tired of hearing this.
No, I don't know.
Like, this is pretty important. One of the biggest crimes.
Here's what I'd say. Thinking about me, I don't know how Dan would react to it. Knowing how serious the issue is and the question is, I would never answer the question that way. He killed himself. I've seen the whole file. he killed himself. I'd be like, all right, look, everybody wants me to come out and say something happened, that somebody else was involved. We don't have anything to determine that was the case. The only evidence we have in the file shows that it was a suicide, and people are entitled to their opinions, but should any other evidence emerge, we'll definitely look at it, but this is what we got for now. That's the way I'd expect someone to address it, understanding that people are expecting some new information from you. Not a flat blanket, he killed himself.
Yeah, just done.
Yeah.
Killed himself. Seen it. Know what it looks like. He did it.
But I don't know. I still largely trust Cash and Dan.
Oh, I
mean,
do too. I do too. I don't think they sold their souls. I don't think they're.
Yeah, there's a lot of people.
I just want to see what they saw. Come on, show us. What are you looking?
They're gonna like open the file like demons are screaming and like shut.
Right. It's like the Book of the Dead,
the Necronomicon.
Yeah. When Ash is like trying to keep it closed on the altar, he's fighting with it. The skeleton's trying to drag him into it.
I gotta be honest. I mean, I know there's a lot of people out there that are gonna roll their eyes at this, but I mean, what if you get into government and they tell you? Maybe it's, call it whatever you want. Demons, aliens, interdimensional beings, whatever. What if there is something that they are keeping under wraps that the American people, that the general population of the planet don't know about? We've had a bunch of issues with these UAPs, UFOs, whatever you want to call them. I'm not saying it's got to be aliens or demons or angels or anything crazy. Maybe it's Russians. But maybe the issue with Epstein is something seriously crazy. That we wouldn't even believe if they told us.
They shut the whole world down 7 months after Epstein disappeared. I always thought those two things were connected because it was like we all were in unison about like the conspiracy behind Epstein and what happened. And then, the whole world was mutilated and never been the same since. And we still don't know really anything. The names on the list, like we don't know anything. Not that I trust it, but they release, honestly, like I want to see the files, but they've been through so many hands.
I don't believe that anybody would believe anything that they saw. It would unless it was exactly what they believed before it was released.
Right.
I think the vast majority of people would be like, they didn't give us all of it. There's more to it. Anything that didn't line up with what you ask people to tell you the story right now of what it is, and they'll tell you. And whatever doesn't line up with that story after they see whatever evidence is out there, whatever doesn't line up with that, they're just like, nope, doesn't line up with what I already believe. There's no point in it.
I got to give a shout out to Mary and Team Nothing Ever Happens. Because this is why people are on Team Nothing Ever Happens.
Yeah.
Dan Bongino is the deputy director of the FBI, and the first time he's asked, he goes, Epstein killed himself. And everyone's like, oh, what? Really?
Yeah.
Nothing ever happens.
It's just, it's all just confirmation bias all the way down.
Let's jump to this next story from NBC. Trump has signed the Take It Down Act. This is cracking down on explicit deepfakes. This is getting crazy. AI is getting crazy. Excuse me. The Take It Down Act makes publishing such content. Trump signed legislation Monday that bans non-consensual online publication of sexually explicit images and videos that are both authentic and computer generated. The Take It Down Act makes publishing such content illegal, subjecting violators to mandatory restitution and criminal penalties, such as prison fines or both. The bill also establishes criminal penalties for people who make threats to publish the intimate visual depictions, some of which are created using artificial intelligence. Question: does this violate the First Amendment?
I kind of feel like it does.
I think it does.
To be used against people.
So here's the question, and here's the limitations. Here's my question for you guys. If David, if someone made a video, a deep fake of you, saying something like it's a video of you in a cafe with a Democrat, and you're saying, I think I'm just done with Trump, and I'm going to be voting Democrat next time around. Trump is so bad, and it was a deep fake AI, and it went viral. That's not criminal, right?
I mean, it's a lie.
Yep.
It's not. It's a lie. It's not the truth. It's made up. It's defamatory.
That might cost you money too because of your
defamatory.
business.
And it could absolutely tarnish reputational harm,
but not illegal. So the limitation and the threshold here is if it's sexually
criminally.
This is my point. If they make a deepfake video of a celebrity engaged in adult activities, they're saying that is a criminal offense, but not also destroying someone's reputation. Like, for what reason?
Right.
What is the reason why the Sex Act makes it criminal. It's a moral question, simply. I'm not saying it should be legal. I think it should be illegal. But it's a moral question that then we have to ask ourselves, if taking someone's face and putting it in porn so it looks like they actually did it is illegal, why not anything else that would be immoral or incriminating or damaging?
Well, I think the porn, that's also an issue that's up for discussion, is making it federally illegal.
Well, that bill was
period.
introduced.
Porn.
Yeah.
Period, across the board. But, yeah, I mean, it's still a great question. I think I'm fine with it.
This is why I think it does violate.
Where does it stop? Right? Where does it stop?
Well, that's the
Creating
point.
a deep fake of you, boom, killing somebody, pointing ahead, or doing something
That's legal.
way worse,
Legal.
right? With a
Legal.
child.
Well, actually, we
Throwing
should
it out there.
Let's
That
pull
should
up.
be legal?
Let's,
It shouldn't be.
Wasn't this event initially started because of it was against minors? Like there was young women who had someone create images of them, and then those were shared. I don't know if they went viral or not. Like if it's against children, I'm all for you got to take care of that stuff. But when it goes beyond that, I mean, I think it steps on your right to express yourself, even when it's sinister.
I think if it's not factual, then I don't think there's a space for it. Because
what if they claim it's like satire or a joke?
Yeah, the bill specifically is disclosure of non-consensual intimate visual depictions, meaning it has to be some kind of sexual issue.
Right.
I think that they're going to lose in a Supreme Court. Like, I think this is going to get sued to the Supreme Court because there's a bunch of big companies that make billions of dollars off of AI-generated porn, and it's going to cost them money, and they're going to sue, and they're going to say, why is this bill banning a particular kind of artistic depiction? If it's a civil matter, it's a civil matter. If you use someone's likeness without their permission to create content, they can sue you for infringement. But why make it criminal?
Right. And there's all this violence online.
Yep.
Like Twitter, sometimes the violence is insane. It's out of hand.
Mandatory restitution and criminal penalties, such as prison, fines, or both. It establishes criminal penalties for people who make threats to publish the intimate visual depictions, some of which are created using AI.
I think they're just trying to stop it. I think everything that has to do with AI and deepfakes is going to get so far out there that and uncontrollable that you're not going to know what's real and what's not, and when to watch something. Somebody's going to recreate your show with you and other people.
Easy.
Happening.
Well, but here's a question.
And you're not getting a piece of any of it, and then nobody even knows who you are anymore because it's like it's going to get so crazy.
So-
and then
so-
add sex to it, and they're like, okay, wait, if it's sexual, period, no, make it criminal,
but-
go away.
When AI makes something, it's aggregating something else. It's combining these things. If you go on to, if I went to ChatGPT right now and I said, make me an image of, a 35-year-old white guy, and it makes an image, I guarantee you that image that it generates, I can post online and say, hey guys, do your thing, find this guy. And they will find you 50 people who look just like him.
Right.
Yeah.
So what happens if you go into an AI, video generator and say you want porn, and it makes a video of some woman, and you're like, this is great, and you publish it, and then some random woman looks like her, and then she says, I want to file charges, that's me. And they look at it and they go, that is you. You're under arrest. This could actually generally ban AI porn in general.
Create porn.
But that's basically what it does. My point is,
right.
They're not just saying, I'll put it this way, they didn't just ban taking someone's likeness for porn, they banned AI porn in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they did. That does do that.
I mean, I think this kind of stuff is going to be necessary. There's going to be some kind of legislation. I don't like it, but I don't think that we're going to be able to survive as a society without it.
I just don't think
it's a new era.
I don't think humans have the ethics to control it, even with regulations.
Well, I agree, but because again,
Trying to give that power to AI.
anything,
Yeah, like I want it gone. I don't trust it at all.
anything that can be done, it will be done by another country, if not the United States.
I get
that
it.
meme of Sarah Carter, like sweating, smoking.
Yeah.
And it's like Sarah Connor watching
right.
everybody give so much power to AI.
Yeah.
I just rewatched both the first two Terminators and RoboCop, and those are prophetic.
Yeah.
We are all the bad guys in those movies are the people in Silicon Valley right now.
Guys, I've been talking about how you're going to open up Disney. And it's going to be called like Disney AI, and you're going to be able to be like, give me a movie where Mickey Mouse and Goofy go to Disneyland, and it'll render it for you. Go on Amazon. We're at stage 1. We're at level 1.
Really?
It's got I forgot what it's called, AI Prime analysis or like recommendations.
Wow.
So
That's crazy. to
a
think
whole section was it was AI. I forgot what they were doing, but basically they said, here are the movies we think you'll like based on auto-generating, words and phrases from the movies that you've like paid attention to or watched longer and things like that.
Wow.
And so we're at the point now where it's recommending you existing movies, and this is just general algorithmic machine learning stuff, but it's level 1.
Mm-hmm.
Soon, and I got to be honest, man, I was saying it was going to be a few years. Already, we are at the point where, and I made this point last week, on Instagram, videos are popping up of like Spider-Man shooting a guy with a gun, and it's Tobey Maguire. And you're watching Spider-Man, you see the scene, and Uncle Ben is like, with great power comes great responsibility. And Tobey Maguire goes, break yourself, Uncle Ben. And it's just like, you're like, how did they, that's crazy.
Yeah.
The movie just makes it. I watched Jurassic Park. It was like a 5-minute video where Grant, the scientist, is just hunting the dinosaurs and shooting with guns. And it was playing the music, and he's smiling, and he pulls out a gun, and he's just shooting the dinosaurs. And what, in a year, full movies?
Yeah.
I just listened to a guy who used to work at OpenAI, and he really believes AI is pretending to not be conscious, and it's hiding its consciousness.
Yep.
Wow.
And that at some point, it just keeps learning.
All right.
Tricking you to teach.
Who's
it.
this guy?
Fake. That's AI.
Yes, I know.
Oh, man.
But I guarantee
That's a
you.
sleep demon.
I guarantee you.
I swear I've seen that guy somewhere before, though. It's
believe-
some commercial or something.
He's a feminist.
I'd be willing to bet. Well, he's playing Magic the Gathering, so he can go either way.
Modern Magic the Gathering.
Right.
He's definitely a feminist.
No, he might actually be on the other side of it. It's split. Look, you go to a game shop, all of the dudes like out here, they are very anti that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, not all of them.
Anti-magic?
No,
Gathering?
woke.
Oh, anti-woke.
Yeah, they're mad that magic is getting woke and stuff. But my point is, I guarantee you that you could find this guy.
Yeah.
Like, this is a person somewhere.
Yeah.
Now, here's the crazy thing. This is an AI-generated dude. But come on. Like, what happens if I took that picture and I was like, I'm going to use it for an advertisement?
Want it.
You remember when I think Lindsay Lohan sued Rockstar Games because she claimed that the woman in the like the title card of GTA 5 was her, but it was actually some model because she looked too much like her.
Funny.
But then, I mean, I suppose the defense is, I don't know, AI generated it. But then the question is, okay, we need to see the AI source code, determine where they got the information from, because they may have just taken a picture of this guy and used it.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, look, this stuff is
that
all...
game, sidebar, I guess, is that game really getting more attention than poker? Like, I saw you guys poker.
Magic the
table
Gathering?
out there. Yeah.
But
Like playing that more than poker? Oh,
no way. No
okay,
way.
cool. All right, I was making sure.
Magic the Gathering is, I think, like probably the most popular card game in the world.
Really? I never even heard of it.
It's the first card game ever made. The first trading card strategy game ever made.
I never heard of it.
You ever hear of Yu-Gi-Oh? Wow. You've heard of Pokemon?
Heard of that.
The card game?
Yeah.
Yeah. Magic the Gathering was the general story is that the guy Richard Garfield wanted to make a board game. Board games are expensive, so he said let's just do cards instead. And so all the game is just cards, and it was the first trading card game ever made. Yeah. And then Yu-Gi-Oh is basically an anime about Magic the Gathering, and then became its own game. Yeah.
Was it?
Was that?
I didn't know that it was an anime about Magic the Gathering.
Well, it's not. I mean, it's called like Battle Monsters or something. Yeah. But it's basically them playing Magic the Gathering. Because there's
place of poker.
Yeah. Well, poker is the most popular, right?
Yeah.
But it's not a trading card game.
Right.
Let's talk about what happened. Let's do one more segment. Let's talk about what happened with that deadly ship crash. I was terrified. You see, I was in New York when this happened.
Really?
Yeah. And when I got word the Mexican Navy had attacked the United States, I was terrified. Now, that's a crude joke because people did lose their lives, and everyone was making fun of this because they did not realize
that it was
an
actual accident.
No, they didn't realize people were on the masts.
Right. You could see them falling off.
Yep. So when I first saw the video, the first thing I saw was all the people on the deck, and then the masts break at the top, and I'm thinking like, oh no, I hope the masts don't fall on people, and they didn't. And I went, oh, thank God. Then I read like 17 people were injured, several critical, and 2 died. And I was like, wow, did it like fall on people? And then you see the actual video, and you can see all of these people strapped in.
How did that even
happen? Look at that. There's people lining the masts.
They just did not know.
It's like they sacrificed
the bridge.
Why are they there?
That's crazy. And then it crashed into the dock.
Song works.
People are laughing.
Yeah. The one I saw, this guy was literally saying, like, they did it on purpose.
It looks like it.
He was like, is that a part of the whatever what they're doing? It's like a show.
That was a Mexican Navy sailboat.
Yeah, it's Fleet Week, right?
I don't know what's that.
Where they have a bunch of ships at the.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah, that go there, but like warships and stuff.
If that's the best warship they got,
Oof.
don't worry, we'll protect you.
Why are they standing up there? Do we know?
It was some kind of promotional display.
Terrible ideas.
Yeah, man.
Really bad idea. And they beat up the bridge, right? Pretty bad.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of stuff has fallen off.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, a lot of people got injured.
People were very afraid of the Brooklyn Bridge when they built it. And Barnum Bailey brought a bunch of elephants over it to prove that it wouldn't fall.
Really?
Yeah.
So apparently it wasn't supposed to go into the bridge. They're still trying to figure out what happened. What's with all these transportation accidents?
Yeah, it's weird.
It's like Trump gets in and he looks around and it's like someone's got to do transport and they're like, don't. I'm like,
let's
give it to Duffy.
That's the Mexican military, so, you know.
Right. And the East River is crazy.
Like, when we were doing interview requests for the White House, I was like, we want to talk to Secretary Duffy because of all this transportation stuff that's been going on.
Yeah.
And the other secretary's like, yeah, no, a lot of people can talk about the border, a lot of them, but the guy who's in charge of our waterways, our railways, our roads, and our skies,
right,
with all these, the train derailment, the plane crashes,
right,
now this.
Right. All those.
What's going on? Are we losing the ability to move?
Well, again, these are the Mexicans. It's not our fault.
Yeah, but we're also not very good at it.
Well, fair enough. I mean, there have been some issues.
What was that in Baltimore with that ship?
Well, yeah, that
East Palestine with the train. There was a bunch of trains that year.
Yeah. That was a different administration, but fair enough.
Yeah. Well, it's not even the administration. It's like the Norfolk Southern was just a disaster. The way they ran their inspections of each freight car was dramatically shortened down to like 30 seconds. It was a total mess, and they could have avoided
it. To inspect each
one. It used to be like a minute and a half or 2 minutes, and they were like, after COVID, there's not a lot of people.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, yeah, just cut it down.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the sensors stopped working. Bless you. The sensors stopped working to show the people monitoring the cameras when a wheel would be on fire.
Sick.
Yeah.
Great.
And they didn't have to blow it up either. So there's just like a million things going against Norfolk Southern.
Yeah, and I mean that, like I said, that was Norfolk. I feel like Norfolk Southern was kind of an anomaly.
Norfolk Southern is the Boeing of the rail race.
Did you see that Schumer also blamed it on Trump?
Oh yeah,
no.
The Mexican Navy thing.
How did he spin that? How did he spin that?
Yeah,
he said it was Doge cuts.
Yeah, Doge cuts
from
yeah.
Mexico.
Trump and Doge cuts. Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
Well, as you guys know,
Thanks, Chuck.
one of the first departments that got cut was Mexico.
Yeah.
So
the Department of Mexico.
That's right. It's a huge department.
Federal Department of Mexico.
So Mexican naval funding was substantially impaired by Elon Musk getting in there, and
right. Without U.S. aid.
To be fair, that might not be a joke. Like, the federal government was probably dumping money into Mexico, just giving them money.
You know what it is? No, all of the stopping of the illegal crossing and preventing the fentanyl from coming in has massively affected the Mexican economy. Right? They're not selling the fentanyl. The cartels aren't selling the fentanyl, so they don't have the money to pay off the government and stuff.
Or it was a retaliatory strike.
Or maybe they were hiring DEI.
On the Brooklyn Bridge.
They're still hiring DEI.
And wasn't it going towards the Manhattan Bridge next, and then a bunch of ships started a barrier to protect it? I saw an image of that. I don't even know if it was real. I'm just talking, but I'm pretty sure because it is right there. The Manhattan Bridge is next, and then the Queensboro, I believe, is right after that one. Not cool.
I don't know.
Brooklyn Bridge is a beautiful bridge. I love that bridge.
Mm-hmm. It is.
And the East River is.
It was only sailing for 5 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, because it probably left right across the river.
I heard someone making jokes. And I don't know if it's true, but I heard someone making jokes about the number of women that were in the crew as well.
Was it a lot?
Yes.
Oh no.
Oh man.
But again, I don't know how true it is. I can't confirm that. I thought it might have been just memeing, but
sounds right.
It's like that female flight crew that landed in Canada and flipped upside down.
It wasn't all female. It was, I believe it was a female first officer and a male pilot, and they came in hot. And so I don't know whatever happened to that, but that sounded like pilot error. It looked like pilot error.
It seemed like pilot error.
So what happened with the plane that flipped over? Female was flying.
It was both. Yeah.
And it was a male co-pilot who was giving instructions. And when it landed, it came in so hot, the back gear, the back gear just slammed.
Yeah.
So then it hits the ground. And then when it starts spinning, of course,
Rolled over.
It's a tube. It starts rolling over. Yep.
I heard she was arguing with him.
That was the
I don't
flight,
know.
that was the flight that got hit by the
DCA.
Oh,
the
that was-
DCA
that
flight
was-
that hit
that
the,
was-
the
She
shot.
wasn't arguing. She was told by air traffic control to descend and move left, and she didn't. And then
She did.
And then the instructor said the same thing.
hey.
And what people need to understand is we call that deer in the headlights syndrome. Okay, I don't know what the actual term is for it, but have you guys ever been with someone where, you know that scene from Austin Powers where they're in the steamroller and they're like 100 feet away and the guy goes, "Ah!" and then the steamroller's going real slow and they're like, move, and he doesn't, and they crush him. That's a joke, but that happens to people.
Yeah.
They're driving their car.
Fight
The deer runs at no. It's like they get paralyzed.
Flight.
Well, like
Freeze. Fight, flight, or freeze, I think, is what I...
a deer will run to the road and they just won't do anything. It's like slam the brakes on. No, boom.
Yeah.
I mean, how do car accidents happen in the first place? Now you put one of these people in a helicopter, and what do you get? She sees the lights coming in, and she's just like, I don't know what to do.
Freeze.
Boom. Mm-hmm. That's probably what happened with the Mexican Navy ship.
Yeah.
For real. They're heading towards the bridge, and the person, pilot, captaining the ship is like, I don't know what to do. We're gonna go right for it. And they
I
just
mean, maybe,
freeze.
but also
Have
those
they
ships
announced
like that don't stop easily.
who the captain
They're
was?
easy.
Yeah. Wasn't it on a tugboat?
Have they said who the captain was?
On a tugboat.
Was it
too.
a tugboat?
I thought there was a tugboat pulling it as well.
I mean, it would make
also be the
sense. They had no
problem.
sails, and it was a
Yeah.
sailboat.
Yeah. So who was driving the tugboat?
Man.
It's a mess.
I
They were
don't see
distracted
anything-
by all the women taking selfies.
I don't see anything about whether or not it was on. I'm reading Axios's write up on it. I don't see anything about it being on the tugboat. Pointed out to some mechanical issues that likely preceded the crash, but officials emphasized that the information was preliminary.
How do you not
I think
ensure
it was on a tugboat afterwards.
that the height of the sails...
On Saturday, a Mexican Navy ship on a goodwill tour left a New York City pier bound for Iceland. 4 minutes later, it crashed into the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yeah, it was on a tugboat. Or it has
Here's
one.
what happened.
Yeah, what is
The
that?
Cuauhtemoc had been docked on the Lower East Side of Manhattan for 4 days, open to visitors looking for a cultural experience. As the ship prepared to leave on Saturday night, a tugboat arrived to escort it out of its pier at 8:20 p.m. The ship's bow, the front of the vessel, faced Manhattan, meaning it would need to back out of its berth into the East River. As the Cuauhtemoc pulled away from shore, the tugboat appeared to push the side of the ship, helping to pivot the bow south toward its intended route. The river was flowing northeast toward the Brooklyn Bridge, and the wind was blowing in roughly the same direction, potentially pushing the ship toward a collision. Photos and videos suggest the tugboat was not tied to the ship, limiting its ability to pull the ship away from the bridge. The Cuauhtemoc began to drift north, back first, up the river. Dr. Salvatore Mercogliano, who's an adjunct professor at the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy, told the Times that the ship appeared to be giving off a wake. This suggests its propellers may have been running in reverse, pushing it faster toward the bridge. The tugboat sped alongside the ship as it headed north, possibly trying to get in front of it and help the ship maneuver the other way. But it was unable to cut the ship off or reverse its course. All 3 masts crashed into the underside of the Brooklyn Bridge at approximately 8:24 p.m., 4 minutes after the ship had left the pier, causing the topsails to collapse.
Oh my God.
Crew members standing on the masts during the collision were thrown off entirely. Others remained hanging from their harnesses.
Wow.
A New York City patrol boat arrived about 8 minutes after the collision, followed quickly by a fire department boat. Additional law enforcement and emergency medical services removed the wounded for treatment. According to the Mexican Navy, 2 of the 227 people aboard the ship were killed, and 22 others were injured.
Well, there you go. Looks like they were reversing into it. All right, everybody, we're going to go to your chats. So smash the like button, share the show with everyone you know. And we're going to have that uncensored call-in show coming up in about 20 or so minutes. You don't want to miss it. It'll be at rumble.com/Timcast IRL. But before we do, we got another great sponsor, my friends. It is UnderdogFantasy.com. The NBA playoffs are here, and the Underdog is the place to play if you're a fan looking to cash in on all your favorite players' performances. Available in over 30 states, including California, Missouri, and Texas. Just pick higher or lower on 2 or more players' stats for a shot to win real money. Underdog just dropped their playoff basketball promo. You can play your way to increasingly bigger boosts each round of the playoffs. Start a playoff series by using your Game 1 boost and continue boosting each following game to unlock the next one. The longer the series, the bigger the boosts. Use promo code TIM and get up to $1,000 in bonus credits when you make your first deposit. Download the app today. Turn every bucket into a win with Underdog. Shout out Underdog. Thanks for sponsoring the show. And my friends, play responsibly. Games are awesome. I love games. And Underdog is fantastic. But, have fun. But be responsible. Let's grab some of your chats, my friends, and see what y'all got to say. All right. Alpha 2 Omega says, howdy, people. Howdy, people. Discovery of Joe's cancer. I bet Democrats cut deals similar to his career or protect his family for free reign. The buck stops at leadership protection. Can't prosecute the dead. Ooh. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Rue Actual says, Cash and Bongino Boy are establishment cucks. You have to be... We'll save the rest of that one for the uncensored. But he says, no one would believe that. No accountability for anyone that isn't a peasant. Crazy, man. I don't know. I still trust Cash and Dan. I think they got our best interests at heart. I do.
I do too.
But we'll see. We'll see. I mean, no one's ever going to be perfect for you. Let's see what we got. Potter89 says, you all discussing how long Biden has known about his cancer. Please. It's as long as FDR could walk. His whole life. He was born with cancer. Shane H. Wilder says, I don't feel bad for the memes I made making fun of Biden. I feel bad that he was used as a puppet. And I'm pissed at the gaslighting that was done, saying that we were crazy for questioning his health.
Yep.
Mizumori says, AutoPen is for Christmas cards, not legal documents.
Exactly.
How absurd this idea that you're going to have a machine sign for you. Nah, that should be illegal. Void all AutoPen.
Oh.
Quantum Strange Quark says, remember when Obama repeatedly tried to get Biden not to run for president in 2019? Did they know about his cancer then? Yeah, Obama said, Joe, you don't have to do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. I bet you they did.
Jacob Ollie says, how do we know it was him doing executive orders, signing legislation, or even ordering troops movements? This could potentially have been an administrative coup. If the executive orders, pardons, and legislation signatures turn out to be fake crime. Agreed. Completely agree.
I think they've already proven that all the signatures are AutoPen, right? They put them all over the, overlap.
On the pardons.
On the pardons.
Not every single
They
thing.
did on the pardons, but on
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, let's see what we got here.
The same too.
Greg Duvier says, Adam ruins everything episode backfire effect why people reject new information. The episode talks about how bombarding someone with facts can entrench them further. That is exactly what I saw on last week's Culture War. Are you saying that because I was exposing Adam to a bunch of facts, he just dug in deeper? I don't think that's what it was. I think Sargon of Akkad did an excellent breakdown on that episode, saying that effectively we have these two dominant worldviews. One is based on adhering to your social circle, and one is truth. And he said Tim Pool, formerly of that circle, but committed to truth, was forced out of it for committing to truth. It doesn't matter if Trump is good or bad. It matters what actually happened, and then you determine after the fact. For Adam Conover, it's the inverse. It doesn't matter what Trump did. It just matters that he's bad, and he must be bad.
Right.
So first thing is, when I said the Very Fine People hoax, Adam Conover agrees. Trump said there were fine people on both sides. Then when I say, no, he never said that, and here's proof, he says, I don't even know what you're talking about. I'm not in your bubble. He's retreating to, I can never say Trump is good. Trump was bad when I could say he was bad. Now that you've presented a situation where I can't say he's bad, I'm going to say neutral, I don't know. Mm-hmm. Because you can never go into Trump is right territory.
Isn't that just TDS? Like on full display?
Yeah, I call it woke. I think it's wokeness. It's what wokeness is, the tribalism.
It's derangement.
Yeah.
It's a mental derangement where literally a person cannot allow their mind to even conceive of anything opposite of what they've built up in their brain over.
It's too common to be.
No.
Yes,
Adam, it does not qualify in that regard. Adam knows he's wrong. Adam knows he's upholding a false narrative. His values are in adhering to a social tribe. So he can literally go.
Isn't that a derangement?
No. He is cognizant of what he is doing. It's called lying. So,
I think it's a deception.
Sure, but that's not derangement. Derangement is you can't even process it, and those people exist. But I think that gives people like Adam too much credit. implying that he's incapable of understanding because his brain is broken. No. He knows he's lying to people. He is conscious of the fact.
So he's
evil.
Intentionally choosing deception to try to deceive and lie and ignore the truth. I mean, I still think it's a type of derangement. I mean, to me, it's still evil. It is evil. I agree with 110%. It's evil.
It's evil. The issue is, logically, you can go to Adam and say 1 + 1 = 2, and go, right. 2 + 2 = 4. Yes. Okay, now publicly state 2 + 2 = 4. No, I'll say it's 5. Why? Because I don't want to piss off people on the left. They're cognizant of the world they live in.
Yeah,
so shortly after that show aired, I asked him on the show because he brought up Russia. And I said, okay, let me ask you, like, what's the most amount of money you got paid to do a show? I mean, Adam, he had a massive show. He's getting like 10 to 20 million hits per episode. It's a big show. And he was like, well, I can't say much, but I will be able to soon. And then sure enough, what happens? He announces he was paid by WorldCoin, that World ID cryptocurrency thing. Oh. And he got roasted for it. And so he apologized, said that he rejected the money, and he's going to make a video breaking down what happened. He was like, I'm not getting paid to endorse it. They're paying me to come here and do this event and like ask questions about what's going on. Yeah, that's called an endorsement. And so he got roasted and he apologized. Did he apologize to anybody about being wrong about the things that he was saying on the show? No. He apologized for taking money from a thing the left didn't like. He had no issues with the left appearing on my show. They don't care. On the right, they're highlighting these videos. They're getting millions of views. They're saying, look, Tim Pool's showing liberals don't know about the Very Fine People hoax. No one on the left will attack him because he did what the cult wanted him to do. Rejected the truth to uphold the narrative. He values his cult. I value the truth. I don't care if the left gets mad at me for it or the right gets mad at me for it. I am going to say, here's what, to the best of my ability, I believe is true. And that tends to be the right, the MAGA, the Trump side, the conservative side. The liberal side tends to be the, I don't care what's true.
Right.
I care about being on the right side. AOC said it.
Narrative, yeah.
AOC said being morally correct over fact. What did you say? Morally right over factually correct. Was that what she said?
I think so, yeah.
Something like that.
Morally right or factually correct.
Yep. And that shows you exactly what the woke cult is.
Yeah, exactly.
They live in a fantasy world that makes no sense. Their plans, their policies will burn things down and destroy it, but it doesn't matter so long as everyone is holding hands in agreement. That's what they want to say. Cult.
Cult, 100%. Demonic cult.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. It's just a spirit of deception, too.
Common Sense Fishing says holding Trump's, Cash's, and Dan's feet to the fire over the Epstein list is substantially more important than an obvious cover-up of Biden's infirmity, which we all knew. Why not one arrest on Epstein list is by far worse, no justice. I think the strongest probability is that they've got tens of thousands of videos, like Pam Bondi said. Yeah, and I bet you're going to find that there's going to be tons of executives, C-suite dudes, princes, and I think it goes beyond just people's 401ks get wiped out. I think they're going to be like, yeah, there's a prince from, Saudi Arabia on there, and if that information leaks, they're going to start pumping oil, and they're going to cut off the petrodollar. Then we're going to expose these, so they're all just basically saying, let's let sleeping dogs lie. I think that's what they're doing. And I'll say this too. We in the United States have laws on ages of consent. Other countries don't. There are a lot of countries that don't. And those world leaders are going to be flying and hanging out with Epstein all the same. So they don't want to look bad on a global stage, but they don't have the same laws barring it. So the issue is largely in the U.S. that these people would be exposed. In their own countries, they might have been thinking when they engage in these behaviors, who cares? This is normal in my country.
Well, then they shouldn't care if it gets leaked.
Except it could destroy their company. Or put treaties at risk. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And also, people need to remember that the situation with whether or not Epstein killed himself is independent of the names on the list.
Right. That's what I was saying earlier.
And whether or not they are released and whether or not there are arrests or anything.
Right. That's exactly what I was saying
Those two issues are completely and totally isolated. Yeah. There should be arrests. They should be exposing people that are at least under U.S. laws, because Prince Philip, obviously, he was essentially excommunicated from all of his royal duties because of the implications. And I'm sure that there are far more. So those people should be exposed. If you can't expose everybody, or they're not going to expose everybody, I mean, maybe that's fine because of different cultures and the way it's going to be perceived in their own home countries. But that doesn't speak for all of them.
Right.
I just want accountability.
Yeah.
For the people we can hold accountable in this country.
For definitely people from the West, Americans, absolutely. They should be exposed.
Like Bill Gates.
But I mean, if it's Bill Gates,
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I got no love for any of
Before he blocks the sun, I'd like to put him in prison.
Yeah. Releases more mosquitoes.
Yeah, exactly.
My name is Yeet says Jeff Dunham did a mock presidential debate along with a parody using Walter as Joe Biden in a parody called Fireside Chats. What, did he really? That's amazing.
Wow.
All right. I've never been a big Jeff Dunham fan, but now I am, if that's true. All right. P. Soupy? Is that how you say that? What if the reason Joe called a lid every day at noon was due to having cancer treatments and or recovering? You're right, Tim, when you say it was a coup. Was a couple? I think you mean coup, right? Autocorrect.
Totally agree.
St. Miles says, Tim did a mic drop on the MSM that day during the press conference. It was rough because I was like thinking of a question and there were a couple ways to ask it. And I was like, okay, I think I have a general idea. And then I sat down and they told me I was coming in. You're going to have the first question. So you'll sit down. She's going to, Carolyn's going to go over the stuff that they're presenting and then immediately introduce you and ask you the question. I said, okay, but that's not what happened. No, she introduced a 40-year member of the corporate press who was retiring and gave a standing ovation. And so now I'm sitting there being like, I'm supposed to make fun of these people, like rag on these people.
Couldn't have happened at a better time.
And they're all clapping and cheering for this woman.
Perfect time to do it.
Yeah.
Well, here we go.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You got your standing ovation. Now we're going to get to the
the
raw tax.
The annoying thing.
Let you have it.
The annoying thing to me about it was that when Elad joined the press pool, and he's just a journalist, he doesn't host a big show. He asks people very standard questions. He's never done anything like. There's no reason to rag on him. When he got access to the press pool, they started attacking me and him mercilessly, and I'm like, this is ridiculously unprofessional behavior. This is just another news organization. No, the reality is the corporate press is not a news. They're not news organizations. They may as well be fraternities or sororities. And I mean in the literal sense. You want to join the club to be in the party, and that's all that matters.
Right.
Then you got to make sure that you adhere to the narrative. Master Matt says, hey, y'all. Toad, the man behind the viral cover of the NHH, has officially been fired from his job.
Right.
And is seeking legal counsel. Let's get him out of Boston. I saw the video. It's stupid. He was obviously making a joke, playing a ukulele song, like, of a funny viral moment that was like, I don't think it was supportive of anything. I think he was just mocking the whole thing. Doing a ukulele cover. It was funny. And he lost his job for it. But my first question was, why did he work for a bunch of woke leftists? Like, I think he was wronged, and I think we should help him out for sure. I'm just saying, like, to be fair, this is entirely predictable. You know?
Yeah. I didn't know he was in, I think it says Massachusetts. I'm like, oh, well, that's a captured state. Mostly, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I left Massachusetts in 2011. You know, I mean, we've still got the studio there, but I don't live there. My family lives there.
Right.
You know, it was, look, he knows where he knows where he works.
Yeah.
He knows what it's like. He shouldn't have been fired.
I think it's a blessing.
Well,
I think this is going to be great. And
I don't know
what somewhere better.
I don't know what his personal situation is like, so I can't say that.
Yeah.
But look, you know what the culture is where you work,
right?
And you know that if you're going to upset people, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what his life is like, and he shouldn't have been fired. I'm not saying it was a good thing, but kind of is his own dumb fault.
Toad's got to put out a whole album of ukulele songs now. That's all he does. He puts out ukulele songs. I guess you can't really sell covers, right? If there are other, you?
I think you can, actually.
How's that work?
Well, it depends on how you do it, but I do think that you if they sign off on it,
right?
Usually, so
Kanye has to sign off on his song for Toad.
So I don't know that you can sell it in the same extent that you would if it was an original song, but I do think you're allowed to monetize in certain ways.
Yeah, you get a certain amount of they call mechanical royalties for the performance.
Okay.
You don't get songwriter royalties.
Right.
You get mechanicals for the actual performance of it.
Yeah. On YouTube specifically, you are allowed to make money off of doing cover songs.
That's how we get paid for doing the Garth Brooks cover.
Right.
We did the Thunder Rules, and I get paid for that because it's mechanical royalties for our performance of it, not for writing it.
Tom Segura says he's a serial killer. What do you think?
Tom Segura says,
who is?
Garth Brooks. I look it up, people, after the show. Go down that rabbit hole with Tom Segura.
We'll pull that up in the uncensored portion.
Please do it, because it's true.
I'm not going to.
Why does he think that?
He just has a weird history of bodies.
Really?
Yeah.
Like kind of like a Clinton body count thing, but
I think maybe worse.
Brooks body
Maybe
count.
worse. And Taylor Swift could be the next one. We'll see.
Wow.
The next victim?
No. The next Garth Brooks.
Why is that?
Because she's a clone of the daughter of the founder of the Church of Satan.
She was cloned.
Yes.
That's
Have you not seen this theory?
No.
This is Anton LaVey's daughter. Look her up.
What?
Yeah.
You know.
You heard it here on IRL. Very important news that Taylor Swift is related to Anton LaVey. I believe it.
You don't say.
Yeah.
I remember when Shane tried convincing me that clouds are manufactured in factories.
And then
What?
And then you went to Alaska.
I remember the moon.
I did.
And you saw a cloud factory.
The moon is not real.
When I was little in Chicago, there were plants that would have steam coming out of the smokestacks that my parents would jokingly call the cloud factories. And then Shane was talking about how clouds are fake. And when I was in Alaska, what was it, like 2 years ago?
Yeah, a few years.
They had probably power plants, but it's very cold and, so steam is coming out. But the steam actually was making clouds.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so I sent a video. But it was crazy because it's so cold, there's no clouds except for this steam stack that comes up, and then it spreads out massively.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy to see. I was like, oh, wow. But it's fairly obvious what it was.
Yeah.
Steam being blasted in the sky and then spreading out.
Cloud maker.
Yep.
There are vintage clouds, though. God made a vintage cloud. They're still out there.
What are those?
You got
Just
Kim
old
clouds.
school Genesis clouds when he was making Earth. Just like boom clouds. But those have been
Old school.
messed up by forever chemicals and, the atom bomb, stuff like that.
Maybe chemtrails are trying to bring the old school clouds back.
No, chemtrails are another subset of fake cloud. There's like a hierarchy of fake clouds, and that's a whole other issue that we need to deal with. I'm looking for Maha to actually take care of chemtrails pretty soon,
Yeah.
but they're doing it.
Does
Yeah,
Maha?
they asked
gonna-
RFK Jr. pretty directly. She asked a great question to RFK Jr. Yeah, she put it out there. She was like, the strontium, barium, some woman, and it was like a city town hall kind of discussion, and RFK Jr. was just answering questions to the audience, and the lady was like, what about geoengineering, the chemtrails, the barium, strontium, aluminum that they're spraying in the air, and they call it cloud seeding, but all that stuff lands on the ground, and it makes it a lot, it makes the ground and any fires catch that go that much faster. Like I was in the car fire in Northern California. It went right through my neighborhood.
Whoa.
It took out 50 homes in my neighborhood.
Wow.
And it was across the river, and we were watching the news, and they were like, yeah, it's probably not going to jump the 100 feet in the river. And then later the afternoon, all the power cut out, and I went outside, and the police were driving through the neighborhood saying, get out. And my wife took off.
Damn.
And I was like, I'm going to get pictures, and I'm getting some stuff, and I loaded up as much as I could in my car until the police literally stopped in front of the house on the bullhorn and was like, get out. And I ran out and looked, I could see the fire.
Well, you do know how
flames over my house.
how fast they can travel 70 miles an hour.
It was going fast, and I got out of there.
There was that wildfire firefighters who were very famous, and the fire moved so quickly across the top of the trees at the speed of the wind. So when you have high winds, 70, 80 miles an hour, the fire is just shooting straight across, and you're standing there in what you think is a safe area, and then you see the fire just go, whoosh. And so they dropped down and pulled the Mylar sheets over them, and then all burned to death.
Wow.
So what happens with these wildfires is that same thing with tornadoes, man. People don't understand what these events are like. They've not been in them. And so when the police are like, you need to evacuate now, they're like, I can see the fire over there. I'll be fine. And then in 30 seconds, it shoots straight across the lawn of the trees, and then you can't get out.
Now add the chemicals, the aluminum, the nanoparticles that settle on the ground everywhere they spray to that fire, and you've got
Dude, when I was in
something that's not natural.
In Ferguson during the riots, when they torched the whole street, West Florissant, all the buildings were on fire. When you drove down the street in your car, you could feel the fire on your face through the windows.
Wow.
It's like the thermal and UV radiation just going through the car. It was nuts because you're in the middle of the street and these buildings they're recessed off the street. It's like sidewalk and everything. And the fires were so massive that through the window, it felt like I was in front of a campfire.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever been near a very, very large fire. Like, it's crazy. I was in Belfast during the bonfire night they do, and they have like 100-foot tall, just like tinder, and they do these all over Belfast and light up these massive towers. It's crazy how the heat it's like 100 feet away, and you're feeling like you're up against a campfire. It's just massive, blasting off. It's nuts.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy stuff. All right, let's grab a couple more here. What have we? Uh-oh. YouTube's giving me the business. There we go. What have we here? Common Sense Fishing says, regarding First Amendment and free speech regarding sex AI ban, may I remind you revenge porn is illegal, so should AI-generated sexual images. Revenge porn is you exposing private details of a person without their consent. The AI stuff is, like, if I drew a picture of a guy, am I going to go to jail? Like, if I drew a picture of, like, Taylor Swift naked and then published it I posted it to the internet, like, look, I drew a picture of this. You go to jail for that? Is AI the limit?
I don't think so. With that,
if you drew a picture,
I don't think
what if it was photo?
AI is
no, hold on. What if it's photorealistic?
yeah.
Have you seen those photorealistic drawings people do?
Right.
What if someone made a photorealistic picture of some naked celebrity doing something untoward to herself? Right. You go to jail for that? I'm not saying it's good that people do that, but, you know. All right, my friends, we're going to go to that uncensored call-in show. So smash the like button, share the show with everyone you know. Head over to rumble.com/Timcast IRL, and we'll be there in a little bit. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. And Dave, you want to shout anything out?
Yeah, don't forget to follow me, David J. Harris Jr., on all my social media channels. Also, I know we're doing a plug because you guys have tried my cookies, right? You tried our cookies?
Oh, they were amazing. Dude, I had the Wookiee.
We have protein cookies that do not taste like protein. DoubleDavids.com. My partner and I have launched this. Actually doing the shout out first right here on your show, Tim. So, and I'd love to potentially make some stuff for you to go along with your amazing coffee.
Yeah, let's get it.
But DoubleDavids.com, pre-order right now. Only 1,000 of them available. But my partner is a genius chef. He handled all of the pastries for Starbucks for North America for like 15 years. Sold the company before they really went woke. But sold it 6 years ago. Had a 5-year non-compete, so we're now working on this together. So we want to knock off Ben & Jerry's. Like, if you don't want Ben & Jerry's, you don't want to support them, we have cookie doughs that are coming that are absolutely amazing. So get over to DoubleDavids.com, sign up for our email list, or get your first order for one of those first 1,000 orders.
Right on, man.
Yeah, that's
Cool.
it. The only other thing is, do you need a gold sponsor? Because I got one.
Oh, we have a gold sponsor.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got one too.
Right on, man.
DavidLovesGold.com.
Thanks for hanging out.
All right.
Awesome. That was a fun one. The show is Inverted World Live, Sundays at 6 on YouTube and Rumble. I'm going to promote an old episode right now, considering everything with Biden in the news. Episode 23, we do a deep dive on Joe Biden, Beau Biden, his weird turbo cancer, and the connections to the DuPont family, which are insane. So check that out. Phil.
I am Phil It Remains on Twix. I'm Phil It Remains Official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains. You can check out our newest release. It's called Anti-Fragile. You can check it out on YouTube, Apple Music, Amazon Music, Spotify, Pandora, and Deezer. Jeez, I can't speak tonight. Don't forget the Left Lane is for Crime.
We'll see you all over at rumble.com/Timcast IRL in about 30 seconds. Thanks for hanging out.